Okay, I don't remember I mean, going into my...
I know you're a planeswalker.
Oh.
Okay, look. I already told Jacob this and I'm gonna tell you. You guys should be able to hash this out with words instead of fire and off-screen punching, right?
Dale, I've been doing a lot of thinking about that, and yeah, you're right.
Well, good, because I don't think we ever finished that training thing, and how do you two know each other anyway?
I'll explain that later. Now...
Oh, we were friends, like, years ago.
Hey, yo, Dale, can we just...
And I may have had a crush on him back then.
Never would have guessed you were gay.
Really?
Dale, like, Kim.
We're also kinda dating now.
Wait, you? And him?
Yeah.
How do you have sex?
Oh, well, that's easy. You see, we...
Dale! So, like I was saying, see, my whole beef with you is with you taking Elias aside. Now that we're back on fucking topic. Appreciate that.
Okay, he took my side for one. I didn't ask to hang out with your giant robot nemesis, and he...
Oh, pump the brakes there, Big Shoot. The robot called himself Elias?
Yeah, and he fucking ditched me at the Temple of the Orb of Chaos.
The Orb of...
Yeah. And apparently there's some ghost bitch who...
And who exactly are you calling a bitch?
Well, speak of the devil.
I thought Starmaker got cut from the series.
What?
Okay, whoa, time out. What the fuck?
Ahem. Allow me to explain what's going on here. These two idiots are trying to talk you into fighting their battles for them because, well, they fear the orb. As they should.
That's not...
And instead of wanting you to use it on them, they would rather you use it on their enemy.
You lying bitch.
But, of course, if you want to go with them, that's fine. But if not, I'd recommend using the damn thing and getting their stupid existence over with.
Boo, don't listen.
Especially the non-committal furry over here.
I'll have you know.
Will all of you shut the fuck up? Okay, Boom, gonna explain this real simple. First of all, the robot is not Elias. I don't know if he's working for Elias, controlled by Elias, pretending to be Elias. I don't really give a fuck. All I know is, I found out you were a planeswalker and figured you brought Elias, or the robot, or what the fuck ever, here. And when you say he just followed you around, I'm inclined to believe you.
Well, I'm glad this was just...
Not done. I seen the way you is on me. I believe you're honest, but I still don't entirely trust you. I don't see you commit to an enemy very often. And Elias is manipulative. So I don't want you going after Elias.
Then might I recommend...
Unless you can show me you as a savage. We don't want to co-op.
Jake, can we talk about this whole obsession with commentaries you've had lately?
Fine, I accept your terms. Yo, what the fuck was that just now?
Wait, damn it, that's right, I'm supposed to be Goku in this anime.
Okay, sure, who on?
I'm gonna rip your fucking spine out, I swear to God.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second part of the mini rant series regarding of justifying myself of the drama last year. If any of you haven't watched the previous part of the series, I recommend you take a look at it before moving on to this one.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Is that Silver the Hedgehog with tits?
This is sonic93, a DeviantArt ranter who...
Hold up, DeviantArt rants?
Yeah.
Isn't that more the territory of, say, a Ponder Sprocket or a Heaton Mitsuru or a Scarlet Otaku or someone else who might give a shit?
Yeah, typically. This one talks about the Sonic video games a lot, though.
Okay, but so what? I was expecting, something on a card game or a bad take on a superhero movie or some shit, not some...
Oh, please. I mean, yeah, the subject matter you're considered a specialist in, but let's face it, video games tend to be your bread and butter, and well, we also know how you do with multiple different subject matters in the same video, so...
Alright, fine, sure, whatever. Just this once, I'll do a DeviantArt cringe fest thing.
You'll think the DeviantArt is gonna be cringy.
What?
You'll see.
Also, big thanks and credits for the amazing intro goes to Minnie the Meanie, who will join us next time when we talk about Dumbsville. All randomness and jokes aside, this part I'm going to be talking about this certain person that started this whole unnecessary mess of the drama, none other than Alduin Gajinka. Now, before I'm going to say my opinions towards this horrendous joke of a video, let me just say that before the video was even made, she was acting such a troll by saying stuff like, "So is that fucking real?" with a long of wink smiley faces on my community section 2 or 3 times.
My god, do you people have a shit sense of what trolling actually is. Okay, pro tip, leaving a comment is not trolling. If I were to, say, leave some sort of coded comment that alludes to the fact that I'm covering your video and say hexadecimal or something, that's not being a huge troll, that's viral marketing. Not that you won't take the video down and re-upload it anyway.
That some people might confuse for an actual virus.
Can we not talk about viruses so much?
Why?
Touchy subject. Anyway, as we gonna see throughout the video, this type of comment actually alludes to one of the major criticisms of you. Owen, what you're doing right now is this thing right here, it's gonna bite you in the ass later.
Wait, so does she just start trolling this Alduin person?
You'll see.
I don't like it when you say things like that.
Sadly, I can't provide evidences because I consider and still consider her as a troll and didn't want to give her my reaction as she obviously wanted or expected me to give. So I removed the comments she made. More details on that later.
Wait. So you didn't want to give a reaction, which is the reason you can't provide evidence, but instead you're providing a reaction to the comment in the form of pointing out how trolly it is while not providing evidence?
That is also gonna bite you in the ass in, I believe, the next couple of minutes.
Oh god, this is one of those videos. And it's an hour long?
Ah, yes, of course. Boon Cannon the movie part 4.
There's been 4 that are this long!
Now, let's talk about my overall opinion towards the video before going on with my very first commentary, actually. It has got to be one of the worst videos I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
But boom, it's definitely a cliche.
Oh, yeah, totally. Hell, I even Tony Schiavone it up by calling things the worst X ever. But the cliche counter in and of itself is a cliche that's dumb and doesn't really address what the video is actually saying. Besides, if it's really her first one, give some leeway on the writing. I do have a problem with this though.
Is that so?
Yeah, she just straight up starts giving what amounts to final thoughts at the beginning of her video. I mean, well, technically you can do that. I don't find it a very good practice overall, because you're really just poisoning the well, especially the way she's doing it here. See, when you front load the summary of your findings from the video, then what you show in the video comes across as you confirming your own bias to your audience. In fact, most commentators will simply explain who they're covering and what they're talking about at the beginning. At worst, just say it's bad at the beginning. Again, you totally can give detailed thoughts on the video as a whole at the beginning, but when someone like me comes along whose job it is to take everything you say with a grain of salt, or when someone who doesn't agree with your interpretation notices that you're just seasoning the water with hate, that looks worse for you than if you displayed the evidence of the conclusion before the conclusion.
And I'm not even exaggerating when I'm saying this. I am dead serious.
Okay, maybe we do need the cliche counter?
The video is supposed to be a quote-unquote commentary and correct my wrongdoings, but I can't call this a commentary. I can't even call this a rant video. This is straight up a troll video.
And what did you just say about why you weren't showing her comments?
Sadly, I can't provide evidences because I consider and still consider her as a troll and didn't want to give her my reaction as she obviously wanted or expected me to give.
So, you know, you can't show evidence of a troll because that would be giving them what they want by giving them reaction and drawing attention to what they said. And yet here the McFuck we are with you about to do an entire video on what you call an attempt at trolling. Premise fucking destroyed. We done here?
Nope.
But
It gets worse.
oh god.
The video is supposed to be a quote-unquote commentary and correct my wrongdoings, but I can't call this a commentary. I can't even call this a rant video. This is straight up a troll video. I mean, seriously, how can you expect me to take this as critique?
Yeah. Ruth. I don't know if you saw the title of the video, but it was mostly about complaining about Sonic games and why their characters are handled so poorly in the story. It wasn't a video praising Silver's personality and what they like about him.
And she does that throughout the whole video. It was really hard to sit through.
Okay, yeah, I guess constant sarcastic condescension is really hard to sit through and overly mean-spirited. But to say she's not providing a critique is...
Yeah, she's lying.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, if she's gonna front load some bullshit, then so will I. She's straight up lying about the overall tone of the video.
I mean, I'll see for myself when the video starts, but that would take bringing the final thoughts to the front of the video feel less like an accidental structuring issue and more like an intentional obfuscation. But why should I believe you?
Aight. You passed the first test.
So she's not lying?
No, but you decided you wanted to see for yourself instead of taking my word for it.
Okay. This is weird.
It was so offensive, not worthy of my or anyone else's time to watch for that matter. And it was literally 44 minutes of
blah 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 blah.
As opposed to your 1 hour and 13 minutes of it.
And this video's 3 hours of it? Look, let's be real. We all know how my videos are.
If the video was supposed to be the source of what I did wrong for anyone who doesn't know what's going on, why do you feel entitled to act like you're better than me?
Because she thought you were being a piece of shit. I mean like a real piece of shit. Like if a piece of shit took a piece of shit and that piece of shit took a pea and shit, you're that piece of shit.
Yeah, but it's not the best way to handle something like...
If you're going to call someone out, you have to reason with them, give them constructive criticism, not attack or harass them, and most importantly, have proof of their behavior. That's what I did with my Kai Dilia and Yoshiri 1 rants.
Alright, time for me to break down the sentence you just said and debunk every word of it one by one.
Jake, you have clearly underestimated the nerd.
Let's start with you have to. Bitch, no she don't. Notice that when I pointed out you front-loading your final thoughts the way you're doing now, I did not tell you that you had to do it my way. I recommended a better practice and explained why it was a better practice. I didn't give you fucking orders. Reason with them. Yeah, unless they've shown themselves to not be reasonable in private conversations, hell, the reason it tends to reach a call-out stage is because you have tried reasoning with them in a more private manner and they didn't listen. Now, I will agree that being reasonable is generally better, which is why the fact that your call-out in this video starts with orders and labeling a critic as a troll comes up as straight-up hypocrisy. Give constructive criticism. So, here's the problem with constructive criticism. Most people who I've heard actually use that term aren't giving constructive criticism themselves when they actually ask for it. Like, okay, for instance, demanding the person you're talking about follow your rules for their own content? That's not constructive criticism. That being said, you don't have to play nice when you call someone out. That's what a call out is. If you're calling them out, you are likely already in opposition with them. I feel like I said this somewhere before. Maybe it was like 5 seconds ago? Not attack or harass them. So, in terms of the attacking part, literally the thing you just said, attacking is oppositional, therefore not constructive criticism. And a call-out places you in opposition with them. That's just what a call-out is. I feel like I said this somewhere before. Maybe it was 5 seconds ago? As for harassing, you are aware that harassment is a rather nebulous term, and someone can literally just say they're being harassed solely because you gave them criticism. Of course, that just meets the definition in Webster's dictionary, which isn't the legal definition and really just defines it as a buzzword. Here's a rule of thumb. I'm not saying that you have to follow this, I'm saying that this is like generally a good way to handle it. In most cases, it's not legally harassment until you are asked to cease the behavior, and then you don't. You stated yourself that you didn't want to give any reaction to her, but giving a reaction is a legal defense in a situation like this. Also, trolling and harassing are not the same thing, you chucklefuck. If all you do is remove the comment, then that doesn't tell her to stop commenting. Have proof of their behavior. Hey, you know that trolling that you don't have proof of from the beginning of the video? Bitch, where?
If you're going to call someone out, you have to reason with them, give them constructive criticism, not attack or harass them, and most importantly, have proof of their behavior. That's what I did with my Kai Dilia and Yoshiri 1 rants. And Aldowigijinka did nothing of that sort. Her video literally made me look like the bad guy without proper evidences, and even though she had so-called proof, they weren't actual proof, and her arguments were very weak, very insulting, and very repetitive.
Okay, first of all, real talk, now you're outright telling your audience what to think about the video before you show them the evidence. Which I can't fucking wait to get to at this point. So, I guess I'll treat this like your thesis. The things you stated as requirements before are things that you state are not done in Alduin's video. I've already deconstructed that thesis, so it shouldn't matter if I, say, happen to find examples of constructive criticism, providing evidence, or saying something in a nice way. Then there goes your thesis again, right? Okay. Noted.
Please don't show that to me anymore. Please get it out of here. Stop.
So, with all that being said, let me do something that Aldowigijinka felt miserably to do, which is 1, give you proper proof, 2, not containing a whole video of just babbling, 3, not being mean-spirited for comedy relief, and we put humor at the right timing, and lastly, not deliberately harassing someone to gain their attention, which I will talk more about shortly. So, let's begin, shall we? Bet this is what Alduin was thinking. Yeah! That will teach sonic93 a lesson to not to quote-unquote bully someone by trying to gain a reaction from her instead of actually trying to talk to her and give her constructive criticism. No way! This is so much better, easier, and way more entertaining.
Right, so remember you talking about her talking down to you a few minutes ago? Remember how you said she can't do that?
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Ayo, was she dressed as a carrot?
This is one of the biggest reasons why I didn't even bother touching this garbage of a video.
Like you're doing now.
Before was just screaming for me to give her a reaction so she can use it against me to have quote-unquote more proof on my quote-unquote behavior and spread even more bad rumors about me. And the ex-friend was wondering why I didn't want to watch it.
What's this about an ex-friend?
Oh yeah, right. That's gonna come up later.
Okay. So yeah, not important right now. So, cold open jokes are offensive to you? Seriously, I don't see what's offensive to you about this joke at all. I don't even begin to understand your point. What, because she's showing your carrot hedgehog ship and then making a terrible FBI open up joke that makes no sense without the context of the rest of the video? Yeah. Yeah, that'll fucking show you, I guess.
If this doesn't scream, I want to piss you off and you to notice me, which she actually implied on my video when she uploaded it, I don't know what does.
Okay, I commented on this video though, in hexadecimal. At least before you deleted it and re-uploaded, which means I'm definitely gonna do it again when the video goes up. This one that I'm making right now. Here's a spoiler warning. I don't give a fuck if you get pissed off or not. To be honest, if you do, then the gloves will come off, I will become the Godslayer, and we'll go 10 rounds on Tarkir, but that's beside the point. Why exactly are you supposed to be angered by this? Because I'll tell you what someone trying to anger me did. Uploaded my work in its entirety, then tacked themselves on the end talking about how bad it is before going into their completely unrelated video. Or continuing to name drop me long after the beef trying to get me to respond again. Or leaving comments on my video telling me to kill myself. This is... Honestly, it's not funny. It's not offensive either. It's not really anything. The fact that you're reacting this strongly indicates to me that maybe her trying to make you mad isn't the reason that you're getting mad.
Also, why even bother making fun of a self-insert ex-canon ship when you yourself are shipping yourself with a canon character and possibly more characters? So that begs the question, Aldo and Gijinka. Why are you making fun of your own kind? Shouldn't we stick together as fangirls who likes to ship ourselves with canon characters instead of going against each other?
You know good and damn well why she'd be doing that. It's not about behavior in and of itself being wrong, it's... well, I'll let her explain that.
I'm sure most of the people who are involved in the DeviantArt community remember all the drama in the Sonic fandom a few years back. Notably, the fiasco involving Akai Dahlia, right? Of course you do. There was a plethora of videos talking about her and the antics she was up to on her old DeviantArt account. However, two YouTubers always stood out to me when it came to these videos about Akai, and those two were Sonic93 and Amy-chan.
Okay, a little nitpick. It's not important, but I just want to address this. I don't know the actual pronounce of Dahlia, so you can say Dahlia that way if you want.
Were you making fun of her for the way that she pronounces words? I don't think you want to open that can of worms. Oh, and more importantly, was that condescension I heard? But you're calling her out. You can't be combative. Your own rules, bitch. And, yeah, it's actually pronounced Dahlia. Why would you assume Delia? It's an A, not an E. A's in English don't make an S sound. They make an A sound. Sometimes sound, but very rarely an eh. More importantly, with the first name Akai being Japanese, it'd be safer to assume proper Japanese pronunciation, which
Would be
yeah.
Since when do you know Japanese?
Since when do you?
Look, not important. There's also the actual flower, which is pronounced Dahlia. That may be the basis for the name. So either way, you have
two proven correct pronunciations, neither of which are what you said.
Hey, you ain't allowed to finish off
gay sex. I thought you were gonna say something else. Doesn't make me wrong, though.
But Amy-chan? That is not whether me or she, for that matter, pronounces her username. Sorry, it just bothers me the way she pronounces it, that's all.
So, Japanese bothers you? I'm kind of offended. I mean, the Japanese language doesn't really have rules for exceptions to the way things are pronounced, other than involving the Romanized letter N and U's most of the time being silent. And chan is a real Japanese suffix used for a person who is younger. Or, you know, a girl, typically.
Which would apply to the character of Amy in Sonic the Hedgehog, since, of course, the most cringy Sonic fans are also massive weebs. That fits. I know it's a proper name in this case, so the argument can be made that you have good reason to view it as Chan all you want, but it's not like there isn't a reason someone would pronounce it differently.
What I liked about their videos were that they were not only talked about her character, but also talked about her behavior towards others. It was honestly much more refreshing than people screaming, "Your OC is rigged!"
Wait, I'm sorry, was that her giving a compliment to yourself and Amy-chan? Weren't you just saying that the entire video was her being condescending and one thing that she didn't do was provide constructive criticism? Like, for example, pointing out what was good about your videos before going into what she didn't like now? Okay. So yeah, you're already fucked on the credibility department. What else in your first thoughts is wrong?
However, over the last couple years since I discovered them, they seem to have been doing their own separate things.
Yeah, that's kind of true because she told me she didn't want to make rants anymore, and I truly respected that. I mean, I wasn't really happy about it since I thought that was kind of our thing to make rant videos about things we both agreed on, but I understood that she didn't want to do that anymore. Not to mention that we talked a lot less and less. And it got so severe to the point that not only doesn't she want to make rants anymore, she's way too unavailable to even make videos overall. So if you guys are missing us collaborating, these are the reasons why. I'm not saying that I'm blaming on her for that, but it did have its effect, as you can tell.
So I'm fine with you expanding on what she said here. I do it all the time. But where's that condescending attitude you were talking about earlier? If she does it throughout the video, and that's all the video is, then what is this neutral sounding context that she's giving right now?
Oh, don't worry. She's gonna get to that right about, now.
Amy-chan is in a healthy relationship with her boyfriend Gmod Spartan, while sonic93 is doing something alright.
Who is to say that just because you're in a relationship, it's automatically healthy because they're not quote-unquote obsessing with the fictional character? Also, are you implying that there's something wrong with being single and they're losers or something? Are you saying that people who are in a relationship might not be in an abusive or toxic relationship just because it happens to be real life people and not fictional crushes? Not everything is what it seems to be. Looks can be very deceiving.
What the fuck?
Here we go.
Who said anything about obsessing with a fictional character?
No one yet, but Alduin's gonna bring that up.
Okay, fair, but what the fuck? Look, the only reason the implication of shipping with a fictional character being automatically bad makes any sense at all is because you planted it there just now.
Her very next sentence, which you're gonna play, so no need to add that in right now, explains what she means by what you're doing that's different.
Also, no, she's not implying that being in a relationship with a real person can't be unhealthy. Are you fucking telling us that you know something that we don't? Seriously, the way you describe it sounds more like you know something about Amy-chan's situation and aren't saying anything, which kind of makes you out to be the bad guy.
Duh.
And also makes it out so that you're making a claim without proof and only getting around your criteria by using language to not say it's factual when your words clearly imply you know something you're not telling us.
Yeah, side note, if you do know that Amy-chan's relationship is abusive and you're hiding it, then all you really doing is aiding the abuser.
Jake, you alright?
Yeah, I'm fine.
There's something you guys wanna...
No!
Alright, got it. Fuck me, I guess.
Sonic93 is still doing rants, though to me, her personality and views have become something much to be desired.
What the hell are you talking about? My personality and views have become something much to be desired? I don't understand what you're trying to say here. It's really confusing with that statement without you explaining what you mean by it.
Then maybe wait a second for her next sentence to possibly explain what she means, you know, instead of trying to commentate on every single sentence that she says.
Yeah, I can barely stand how much he rambles on when covering a full thought. I'd kick you in the fucking shins if you start jumping at every half thought. Keep it in your pants.
I think that's the first time I've heard you say that.
What, kicking someone in the shins?
No, telling someone to keep it in their pants.
Look.
One thing that stood out to me was that during her old Akai rants, she demonized Jane for shipping her character with both Sonic and Shadow. But apparently she's shipped herself with Silver and Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Not only that, but she seems to dislike Blaze the Cat in the same manner Jane did years ago with Amy Rose, because the character gets in the way of their shipping.
There's a lot of things wrong with these three statements that I don't even know where to begin to describe how the lack of quality and proof all of them have.
Okay, but before you do that, statesmen's?
Oh, come on, man. English probably isn't her first language.
Nah, I already got that indication. I didn't say anything about evidences earlier, after all. But come on! If you understand the basic concepts of English well enough to assume that the plural of evidence is the same word with an S on the end of it, I think you'd get the plural of statements right. Even if you think it's two words, why the fuck would you pluralize both of them by default? Like, I know, kind of a nitpick, but if she can get onto someone's pronunciation of words when they pronounce the word fine, I can say something when it actually is wrong.
Like when she says debut later.
Because it's Latin?
No one's first language is Latin, you call my man a chucklefuck. See what happens.
Alright, let's take one of them at a time. Okay, she first claims that I was quote-unquote demonizing Akai for her shipping herself with both Sonic and Shadow, while I do the same with Sue and Raphael, aka she's calling me a hypocrite. It's okay, I get that. From what she stated, she has seen my Kai Delia rant series, though I am suspicious she didn't bother watching it again for an attempt to make sure what she's saying is accurate. Now, I don't have proof of it, but based on her attitude throughout the commentary and not providing an example of me demonizing Akai, I can't help but feel that way, and why it will make sense that I feel this way. And even if that was the truth, shouldn't you provide proof of where I have been so-called demonizing Akai for those who hasn't seen my rant series of her to make your point valid? Why should I take your word for it just because you have watched it?
Hey, remember when you said that people have to show proof of their claims? And here the McFuck we are. You know what would prove that she didn't rewatch the videos, or at least reasonably prove that she did not understand your point in those videos? Maybe if you fucking showed some clips.
Isn't this already long enough, Boon?
You forget who you're talking to. But yeah, blatant double standard aside, let's talk about another reasonable explanation. I mean, other than the fact that she didn't want to do the same thing that I didn't want to do and comb through 4 fucking hours of footage solely for a minor point at best. So instead of intellectual inhonesty, maybe she just got a different impression than what you intended. From what I skimmed through, you talked a lot about her hating Amy Rose. I'll analyze how your later points are either straight up wrong or easily understood as tying into what Alduin said, and well, about now.
I'm not gonna go in detail for my opinions of Akai shipping herself with both Sonic and Shadow, since I already covered that up in the rant series, but to make it short, it was how she A, portrayed her character when pairing up with them at the same time, not separately.
Yeah, and her examples with you of Raphael and Silver are from different canons, which means the only way they would have to be in the same picture together is you. And let me make this 100% clear. I'm not saying that your interpretation of the difference is wrong, because it's not. But what I am saying is that her interpretation of the similarities also isn't wrong.
Also, yeah, polyamory isn't a thing. Obviously not allowed. Who the hell are you? Don't worry about it.
B, how she treated each of them differently, and she always seemed to be into Shadow more than Sonic, or Maurice, as she likes to call him, despite her constantly drawing her with him all the time, including sticking close to Shadow's real personality, while Sonic's still too attached and obsessed with her.
Okay, first of all, if you're gonna list off your reasons with audio cues, that should have been 2 separate entries. Really would have made your stuff pop more and made it easier to follow, but that's beside the point.
What if the characters listen to Sonic than Shadow? I mean, if the character is showing more affection to Shadow and not being pursued of Sonic, then why couldn't she just like Shadow more? Personally, I like Lorwyn better, but that's just me.
In addition, I can actually cite aspects of Sonic's personality that indicate why this would happen, namely his impatience and impulsiveness. He's also very passionate about what he cares about, as indicated by how zealous he gets in regards to injustice or unfairness, so it would stand to reason that Sonic, in a romantic situation, would be more inclined to fall for someone playing hard to get in a fashion like this. Or at least what he thinks is playing hard to get. And this is someone who agrees that this type of behavior is pretty out of character, by the way, but not outlandishly so, and indicates more that they've known each other for longer, and he's willing to make a move than something like with Sally Acorn in the comics.
And lastly, C. Her shipping with them was always something desirable and not really a headcanon or scenario. meaning that it's always something sexual and nothing about elaborating Akai as a character or how she'd be when pairing up with each of them. Not to mention that both of them are extremely out of character. I have nothing against Akai having these kind of fantasies and desires regarding Sonic and Shadow, but the problem is, that's all there is. Desires and nothing else.
Okay, so 2 things. For one, didn't you just show a picture of Sonic offering her flowers and her seemingly giving him the cold shoulder? That, I'm not sure if you knew this, that is not sexual. If the fact that it's indicative of a romantic gesture means that it's only a desire, then, well, very little actually gets past those qualifications. I have a feeling I'll be using this problem against you in the near future.
You will.
Oh, good.
She also just said Akai's work sticks closer to Shadow's personality, but then says they're both extremely out of character. So, which is it?
No, it can be both. They can both be extremely out of character, but Shadow less so. Unless it's just out of character because there's sex involved.
Which is dumb for a whole host of reasons that aren't even worth going into.
Are you just involved now? Didn't you hate commentaries a minute ago?
I never said that.
You kinda did, babe.
Huh. Well, fuck me, I guess.
Later.
And the first time I watched the video or listened to the whole sonic93 does the same with Silver Raphael argument, I thought it was so ridiculous when I saw the picture she used to quote-unquote prove that like Raphael from TMNT. It was so ridiculous, and I will show you why. More proof of how this video lacks evidences, and in this case, wrong evidences. Because first of all, the picture is not supposed to be a couple picture. It's supposed to be a friendly comfort picture. There's a difference. I know the picture might be too hard to see the text, but if you really pay attention to what it says, I named the picture Raphael and Ruth Comfort, not Raphael X Ruth Comfort.
So apparently it's not shipping if you don't use the letter X between the names?
Yeah, that doesn't prove anything though. By that logic, your earlier picture of Akai, Sonic, and Shadow proves absolutely nothing, since it has the names. Nothing related to being in a relationship, just all them fucking standing there like a movie poster.
Speaking of promotional stills, what about that comic book cover a second ago? The name on the cover says Shaddai, with the clarification that it means Shadow and Akai, not Shadow X Akai. The artwork does also indicate this is romantic, but look again. Sonic is in the background, not in the title, indicating that he is a relevant character, but not the main focus of the story. In other words, he's not part of the relationship in this story.
Yeah, so if her evidence is wrong because of a reason like that, then so is yours. I could go further into that, but, well, I have plenty of commentary to dunk on your ass.
Or, better yet, why not take a look at the dialogue? Does it indicate a couple picture to you?
Yes, but not because of the dialogue in isolation.
Remember how I said the body language indicated that the comic cover was indicating something romantic? Yeah, that can apply here too.
And if it can't indicate that here, then why can't it indicate that with the evidence of Shadow being closer to in character?
There's also knowledge of Raphael's character, as in every iteration, it's incredibly rare that he would state anything is bothering him. It'd have to be Splinter, or someone he is romantically attached to. Friendly my ass.
And secondly, maybe it's just me, but I really get that vibe that Alduin was in so much of a hurry to make the video just to paint me as the bad guy by, again, not making sure a point is valid and didn't even bother taking a further look on the video where she found the pictures from, because if she did, she would have found me saying that the picture was just me being friendly to him. And including 5 other way more convincing pictures to back up her claim. But since she used only one and the most non-couple picture, it just proves to me she wasn't serious when making this video. And again, wanna paint me as a bad guy.
Duh.
Yeah, you know what proves her wrong? Showing proof that she's right. I do this all the time, indicate why the person is right, but still point out problems with how they brought up the point, make the better point for them, etc. Doing that, though, takes nuance and not proving the point you just made wrong. Yes, it can be interpreted that the picture is seen as non-romantic. It can also just as easily be interpreted that the picture is seen as romantic, and the reasons you give for the picture being non-romantic would also be used to prove that Akai's pictures can be interpreted as non-romantic, and you're just attaching your own authorial intent onto the author.
So in other words, if she's trying to make you look like the bad guy,
Then it's probably because you're that bad type, make your mama sad type, that make your girl.
And lastly, the whole I hate Blaze the same way as Akai used to hate Amy Rose because they get in the way of my shipping. This is another proof of how she lacks evidence. Because she literally stated the exact same thing to me before making the video, and I was debunking her argument, and she just didn't take it. I told her everything when I stand for Silver, Raphael, and Blaze, and instead of asking me or listening to me, she just kept accusing me, but she makes it seem like this conversation never happened before. Or better yet, didn't even show this in the video.
Hey, yeah, that's the point of this video. Yeah, I know I got onto you for front-loading your overall opinion, but her video is a commentary too, and bringing up these aspects of your character is a way to show that this is what the evidence in the video is going to indicate as well. You even admit jealousy in your comments, so she has a reason to believe that you do dislike Blaze, in spite of the fact that you say that you do not dislike Blaze, with hate really just being a stronger term for the same sentiment in this case.
by the way, the fact that your own post says your opinion and interests have evolved, yeah, that's gonna come up later.
And she took one response I did out of context and somehow thinks I'm acting the exact same way as Akai used to Amy Rose, which I also debunked to her that we're not the same.
Yes, because clearly what you said there is proof of something.
All you really did was say, nuh-uh, my other friend says I'm not, so you're wrong. And it's not hate, it's jealousy.
Which, by the way, is the actual emotion we're describing, because hating a character for the reason of getting in the way of your shipping is, guess fucking what? Jealousy.
And everything I just told you right now, I said the exact same words to the person whom I thought knew me the best and would back me up for it. But when I showed this to her, she didn't see it as a big deal, but it was an actual attack against me, and she did absolutely nothing about it.
Honey, I'm a fucking superhero, and even I'm not gonna fight someone's battle for them like this. Come on.
Yeah, the way you're talking here indicates that you wanted her to confront Alderwin about what she said to you when that ain't really on her. And besides, that's how something becomes a bigger problem than it really needs to be. Ain't that right, Dylan Thomas?
Also, I can't help but point out something strange about this screenshot here. You see the solid colored block at the bottom there? To me, that looks like some sort of censor bar over part of the text. It doesn't fit in with the rest of the UI of whatever messenger you're using, so this leads me to believe that this was information that was actually being hidden. Now, there are two reasons that you would hide information in a context like this. First, it could be personal information, but I have doubts that it is based on the context of what was being said before that in the same text. Second, the more likely and more damning possibility is that this is something that you don't want us to see for evidentiary reasons rather than privacy reasons. And that, to me, indicates that it could be her doing exactly what you're saying she's not doing, fully admitting that could not be the case here, but, well, I can't look past it as a possibility. And no, saying, my IRL friend says it's true isn't evidence, no matter how many times you say it.
And on side note, my friend in real life, whom has not much knowledge of the internet world or wasn't with me when the drama happened, even thinks this is strange that she didn't do anything when I told her about me and Alduin's conversation.
Hey, maybe that's because he doesn't know much about the internet, according to you. Maybe that's because he doesn't realize that long-distance communication is different from face-to-face conversations. Maybe your description of the situation was slanted. Maybe they were just trying to make you feel better. Maybe my IRL friend agrees with me isn't fucking evidence, you piece of shit.
This is basically the my uncle works at Nintendo level of unverifiable hearsay.
And I don't mean to make her biased or say you should be biased just because they're close to you.
I mean, you can not mean to say it all you want. That doesn't mean it's not what you're saying.
All I'm saying is that you should stand up to your friend whenever they're in trouble or being attacked. And it's not about quote-unquote defending someone blindly, but just simply be there for someone when they need you the most, especially when they're being wrongly accused.
So it's not about white knighting someone, just being supportive when they're in trouble. Okay, I get that. So the phrase, "she should be more understanding," doesn't indicate that at all. What it sounds like, based on what little evidence you've actually given us, is that because your friend didn't jump up and start defending your honor in glorious combat, you took offense. You know what that's called? That's called looking for a white knight.
Hey, you know what I just realized? This has like fucking nothing to do with the video.
Oh, I know. And that's what makes it worse. You went on this entire fucking tangent about how your friend didn't call Alduin a bitch on command while telling us that you don't expect bias. And again, there's also the issue of that censor bar. For all we know, she was being incredibly supportive, but didn't want to get involved in what was basically stupid drama that doesn't fucking matter. But I'll save the rest of that for my final thoughts. You guys thought I gave it to Alexander Kayford back in the day. You have no idea what's coming. Who?
I don't know. I think it's on like the TV tropes page or some shit.
There's a TV tropes page!
Whereas Jane seems to be improving ever since she rejoined DeviantArt.
I keep hearing people being so convinced that Akai has quote-unquote improved and quote-unquote changed, and it honestly annoys me as hell. Oh my god. Just because she doesn't cause drama as she used to, it automatically means she has become a different and better person.
Wait. So she hasn't changed in your eyes, even though you just said she doesn't cause drama anymore. That's something that we call a change. You don't have to completely 180 in order for there to be change or improvement. You just have to change or improve. You admitting that she doesn't cause drama like before is an indication from the outset that change exists.
From time to time, Akai has always proved that she's still the same person as back when I for the first time ranted on her and keep going back to her old routines. Hell, even recently, she has been called out from doing the exact same thing as I called her out for in the first place. Like, remember when she became famous for her Sonato comic, made Sonic all feminine and pregnant, acted like she liked Sonato and started to hate the pairing, and made tons of hate art dedicating to it, including a whole comic of it, and offended the fans of them? And she, quote-unquote, apologized to them because she was in, quote-unquote, influence of emotions and rage? Well, obviously all of that is a lie. I mean, I didn't fall for it because Akai is known to lie all the time. Because recently she has been bothering the Sonato fans again by spamming the comment "no" in different pictures of them, including bothering an artist for drawing Sonic transsexual or being feminine, when again, she herself used to draw him like that all the time, including him with a maid outfit, and even questioned the artist if that's a clone of Sonic and comment on a profile and ask the same question.
And this is the same? Expressing your dislike in the comments is the same as posting artwork against it? The answer is no, it's fucking not. You seem to have missed what her apology even said, as it outright stated that she no longer liked the pairing. Being judgmental of something others liked because you don't? It's a related can of worms. There are probably worms from the same fucking lake in there, but it is still an entirely different can of worms. She's also on a different page where she's not famous for the same thing. So an effort is clearly being made to not give people a false impression that her old attachments still apply.
The impression I get from what you're saying is that she's not allowed to have a different opinion on something that contradicts artwork she made in the past. Well, you, on the other hand, are what with the Raphael thing.
So, tell me, Alduin, how the fuck has Akai, quote-unquote, improved ever since she came back on DA, when I have from time to time proven that she's only saying these things so people can leave her alone and she eventually always goes back to her old self? With other words, all that she's doing is an act, but that doesn't mean her mindset has changed, and especially her behavior from the past. It's like I said to you in our conversation when you wouldn't stop bugging me and craving for my reaction. Get your facts straight before accusing someone to be a hypocrite. Thank you. And I'm giving a shout out to Sparkling Area for informing me this, so if you're watching this right now, I thank you for providing me the evidences and links.
So you pointed out that she hasn't changed, but you needed someone else to get the evidence for you that she hasn't.
Also, remember how you stated one of your main gripes with Akai was how out of character her interpretations of Sonic were?
Actually, that explains the clone comment, doesn't it? She's given Sonic and her artwork a different name to acknowledge the fact that he's out of character from the original interpretation of the character. And when people post Sonic in scenarios, she was called out for being incredibly non-canon. She asks if it's a clone instead of the original version. Is it a very good change to make on her part? No, not really, but it is a change on how she approaches these things, and a change in how you express your opinion is still a relevant change to one's behavior.
Now, the reason why I want to make a video talking about the Silver the Hedgehog fanbase is that, as a Silver fangirl myself, obviously at this point, I, have seen some interesting things coming from his fandom. Okay, I need to ask this, Alduin. If you really felt that part was not important, that you felt the need to speed up my voice, why didn't you just edit it out? Was it really that necessary to let it be there just to speed it up, to make it seem like I was just rambling? Now, I understand that you just want to get to the point of the important parts of a video, but the thing is, instead of just using the same segment, you could have just made it easy for yourself by editing out the parts that you felt it wasn't important and not waste your time with speeding it up. Do you realize that you will miss out a lot of important information that, again, if someone hasn't seen the video, should know about and make their own interpretation? It's honestly very misleading for people who don't know the situation and will sadly blindly follow someone else's words based on how the video was made. Which is, if you ask me, something I expected from that certain friend to also realize.
Hey, I've got some advice for you. The thing you're doing right now, you really want to make sure that you have enough heft behind it when you're throwing Amy-chan under the bus so that she lands solidly on the pavement instead of sliding right between the wheels and ending up safe on the other side, making you look like an idiot like you're doing now. So I'd recommend that you lift with your lower back instead of your knees. Because I bet she's heavy, and you wouldn't want to blow out your knees, especially since you'll need them when I kick your fucking shins out from under you!
The first time I watched this video, I thought you were speeding up the videos, that we could actually tell Alduin playing your original from the current video that you have made. And this is a major production issue throughout, as it makes it harder to follow when you're saying something now, and when it's just a clip of what you said before. So to make up for that, I'm going to use Raphael to represent your older video, because memes.
So, as any Sonic fan possibly know at this point, Silver wasn't exactly the most popular or likable character in his first debut, which was Sonic 06. For many reasons, such as, oh, Sega, why are you making another new Sonic character? We already got enough of them. Why is his hair looking like a pot leaf or a peacock head? Why does he have an annoying voice? Why is he another hedgehog? You get the point.
Yeah, it's not like Silver's the poster boy for shitty boss programming, right? Silver debuted in probably one of the worst video games ever programmed, had 2 shitty boss fights, and his campaign was a clusterfuck full of shitty physics puzzle and agonizing story structure. And yes, his voice acting is fucking awful. Sonic 06 had some of the worst voice acting in any game I've ever played, and Silver is no exception. He was built up to be the savior of the future and prevention of the end time, and every line he delivers sounds like he's either constipated or whining.
Alduin? I don't understand what gives you the impression I would give 2 shits over your opinion towards Silver's debut and him as a character himself. And just because you have the same opinion as everyone else thought on the game, that doesn't make it factual. That's why it's called an opinion. And the way you're putting it, I'm pretty positive trying to make me sound like I'm this Silver fan brat who can't accept that he was hated or something.
Oh, this is gonna be hilarious in about a line or so.
Hey, more importantly, what was that about her condescending to you the whole time? And yet your original video addressed criticisms of Silver's character when he debuted in an even worse condescending tone. On top of that, she did list reasons for Silver to be disliked at that time, other than what you were talking about. And
all I was doing was just summarizing how Silver went from being hated into one of the most popular Sonic characters. And how a level design and boss fight are made doesn't indicate a likability towards a character. I would know. I love Silver, but I ain't a fan of his Dusty Dizzle puzzle part either.
Okay, so who cares what your opinion of the level design is, by your own logic? She wasn't talking about what your opinion is. She was citing reasons she has to not like Silver for his debut game. Oh, and yes, shitty boss fight can be a reason to hate a character. Maybe for you, bad mechanics in a boss fight isn't a good reason to dislike a character. For you. But you know what that is? An opinion? You don't give any explanation to why a boss fight shouldn't be a factor into one's opinion of a character. So it's not like you're presenting an argument against that being a factor in someone's opinion, other than because I said so. So kindly fuck off with telling us an opinion isn't fact when you're treating your own as fact right now.
And as I have been a Sil fangirl for over 10 years, can you believe it? I've always hated it! I don't understand why Sil was so hated back then!
Your Honor, I'd like to declare a mistrial.
Oh yeah, right, you were here earlier.
Who are you?
I'm Sonic93's lawyer. She hired me because I look like Silver. That doesn't make any... I'm aware. Look, my client clearly doesn't realize that she just incriminated herself by outright revealing evidence that states that she doesn't understand why people hate Silver.
I mean, she did, but this isn't a trial. Or a courtroom. And you're not even supposed to be in the series yet? Don't you come in like Volume 4?
Oh. Your Honor, I'd like to recuse myself from this fuckery.
Motion granted.
Well then. Yeet.
Well, that made no sense.
Sega would never make Sonic kiss a real human woman.
It made me feel kind of left out and literally the only Sil fangirl out there. That's how underrated Silver really was back then. But luckily, it wasn't like this permanently and turned out for the better. Silver very slowly, but very safely as well, gained more fans, and even freaking fangirls, as years went by.
Hold up, I have a point to make about your original video right now. What do you mean he safely gained fans? Okay, yeah, slowly, because it happened over a long period of time. Cool. How the fuck do you gain fans safely in that regard?
I would presume it's by not causing riots in a McDonald's over fucking nugget sauce.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that could work.
Now I consider Silver as one of the most popular Sonic characters. Maybe even consider the second most popular character after Shadow. Maybe.
Oh man, it's not condescending at all for you to play back your voice clip a million times to hammer home a point. I fucking love it.
I never confirmed anything.
Okay, cool. That's fucking great. I don't mean that if what you said is based on absolute bullshit, then it can't be called out, homie.
In fact, I can indicate why you would know that you used the word maybe to try to cover your ass about being completely off base. For one, second most popular behind Shadow. Yeah, I mean, for most people, it would be safe to assume that the most popular character in the Sonic franchise is Sonic? Because, you know, it's fucking named after him? I mean, even if Shadow were more popular than Sonic because Dante from the Devil May Cry series, Sonic is likely still in front of Silver. And that discounts characters like Knuckles, Amy, and Tails who have been around way longer and have more frequent appearances. Vector's the Crocodile, who is the leader of the team that Silver's on in Team Sonic Racing. And Silver's the only hedgehog in that game that isn't leading a team, so what the fuck does that tell you? And even if you assume popularity among true Sonic fans or some bullshit like that, then, well, other than that, just being a means to disqualify any opinion that you don't like, that also opens the Scourge floodgate. And if you thought Shadow was popular for being Dante from the Devil May Cry series, bitch, try me.
lack of proof time. And before I say why, I must say that you have a very poorly taste in music to set up the mood for this video. All the more reasons to why I can't take the video seriously, and he just screams trolling to me.
Did you just get on to her for not using music meant to incite a hate boner?
Who fucking cares about her using goddamn Mario music or some shit? It's a skip screen. It's pointing out that she's skipping over footage. Get the fuck over yourself.
Anyways, this right here is skipping an important detail of what I said about my overall thoughts on Valak's video. Now, since I unfortunately don't have the video up anymore and his video itself is nowhere to be found, I can't show you what I said in that specific part, but I do remember that I said along the lines of there were some things I disagreed on and there were some things he made good points on, but when he started to talk about Silver, he said some things that really pissed me off. And before he might say, that's what Aldo and Gajinka is saying too. No, it's not the same thing. Alduin is making it look like I immediately went ballistic as soon as he mentioned Silver because his opinions aren't the same as mine and missed the whole point of his video and just focused on how Silver can't be criticized and he's the perfect character of all time and no one can say anything bad about him. I'm his number one huge fan.
Because, you haven't been doing that thus far. Other than implying that implications were implied.
Yeah, the skip screen didn't say anything that implies anger. All it implies is that you felt his opinions on Silva wrong, which, well, you just said that's exactly what you were doing.
I find it very interesting that you told her to skip over something she found unimportant earlier, but then you wanted to say that she skipped something important here. Not because she actually said anything inaccurate, but because of an implication that you fucking created about it. And I also find it interesting that you conveniently don't have proof that the implication you presented is invalid, nor do you have any reason for her implication other than because you fucking said so.
They'll just make a character, expect the fans to like them, then the fans don't like them because their story and gameplay was handled poorly, and if all else fails, then they'll just make them a background character or forget them altogether. After Sonic 06, then they was like, yeah, you know what? Let's just forget about that one character. What was his name? Gold the Mink?
Okay, I'm gonna already stop him right here. So, according to the guy, the reason Silver is a quote-unquote forgettable character or barely used in the games nowadays is because the fans didn't like his debut in Sonic 06 and the gameplay and the story were poorly done?
Yep.
Therefore, he's just a background character? What? So, by that logic, literally any character who is barely used anymore had a bad debut and that's why they're background characters?
No! No, he's saying that this happened with Silver. He's also implying, by him setting up the example beforehand, that this has happened with other characters. But that doesn't mean it has happened with all other characters. For example...
Save it.
I'm sorry, what?
You have a whole big list of characters that weren't received initially and faded in the background, yeah?
I mean, yeah?
Save it. You'll need those later.
But I have to do the list thing.
Oh, trust me. You will.
Jake, Iran already got bombed. We don't need you to start World War III, okay?
You know, characters like Shadow and Blaze who happen to have a very likable and well-received debut Sonic games, to the point that that's the main reason Shadow is still around and even had his own game?
Dude, you think Shadow's always relegated to a background character? He got a fucking DLC dedicated to him in Sonic Forces. He debuted in Sonic Adventure Battle 2. That's like one of the best Sonic games in the fucking franchise.
Yes, Alduin, you are correct. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is known to be one of the best Sonic games ever. That is why it doesn't make sense how Valak states that Sega makes a character, expect the fans to like them, fans don't like them because the story and gameplay are handled poorly, and therefore they'll become background characters or forgettable altogether. His arguments are being contradicted because Shadow and Blaze, whom are incredibly popular, are these background characters as he states, but not for the reasons he gives, especially for Blaze.
Okay, but I would like to reiterate what I just said. Shadow and Blaze are not who he's talking about. He was not saying this about all Sonic characters. He also didn't say that Shadow and Blaze are background characters either. nor did he say that the characters or Silver in the specific example he's working with were forgettable, but simply forgotten. Either being perpetually left on the cutting room floor like Bean the Dynamite or Bark the Polar Bear, or pushed into the background like Espio the Chameleon or Fang the Sniper. Don't fuck with me on this one! I am the master of obscure fucking references!
And the fans don't like them because the story and gameplay are handled poorly argument would have been accurate for Silver because he was a very hated character for possibly similar reasons, but he became more playable in other games like Sonic Rivals 1 and 2 despite that, and eventually became popular.
Hey, you know, this is actually a good method of interfering with the original video's point. Silver wasn't pushed as far into the background as implied. Sega did give him roles of varying prominence throughout most of his lifespan as a character, and although one could argue that puts him potentially into the push in the background camp, potentially, what with only appearing in the main series as a supporting, non-playable character, but it proves that Sega didn't push him into the background any more than characters that had been well received, like Shadow or Blaze. Well, I mean, other than Shadow, but...
And before Sonic Forces came out, when was the last time Shadow was actually playable and including a story mode, minus the spin-off games? And to be honest, the Shadow DLC really didn't contribute anything to the story and the gameplay. All it did was just giving a backstory of how Infinite became Infinite, and just literally gave Shadow 3 stages to play on. And why doesn't he need a DLC to be included in a Sonic game to begin with? Even so, the screen time Shadow had was very little for me to say that is not a background character.
Oh, so we're going there, are we? Hey, when was the last time Silver was playable in a main series Sonic game, including DLC? Answer, Sonic 06. Yes, I'm aware you're not saying that Silver isn't a background character, but simply that Shadow is. But I've got you beat there, too. With both the DLC and his role in the game before the DLC. Hell, you yourself bring up everything that makes Episode Shadow more than a background character. He's the only other character that's playable in the game aside from the Sonics and Rookie, and he actually provides relevant backstory information. But without the DLC, he's still much more relevant than Silver, and for reasons that are clear if you actually play the fucking game. Shadow is part of Eggman's forces. Admittedly, the twist here is that's not the real Shadow, but instead a virtual clone created by Infinite. Where the fuck are, like, I'm sorry, I just have to ask this real quick. Where the fuck are, like, Eggman's Shadow androids? That would have made a little bit more sense, I think. They just brought back the Shadow androids. But you know what Shadow does? He gets rid of the clone. You know what Silver does throughout the entirety of Sonic Forces? Nothing! He calls Tails crazy, he gets his ass kicked by Infinite in the biggest wharf moment I've ever seen in a Sonic game, and he gives vague-ass sequel bait at the end of the game. He literally does jack all that makes any kind of difference. And you mean to tell me the guy who dispatched one of your main antagonists while also being one of your main antagonists is the background character here? Okay, Felicia.
Especially when the rest of the game was all about Sonic like in every single game, and it makes everyone else's, including Shadow, a background character because they don't really do anything in the games anymore. And even if they do, Sonic is eventually always the main focus. Shadow's debut had a lot more impact to the story than he ever could in Forces, despite his playability being very limited.
Okay, true. Everyone is a background character compared to Sonic. But I'd like to reiterate my point a second ago that Shadow had way more impact than Silver in this particular story. And there's the role Tails played in Forces, and the importance of the fucking Rookie in the game. Those were not background characters, and Tails was primarily a support for classic Sonic. All three of these characters did way more than, well, most of the rest of the cast, not counting Knuckles, the commander of the Resistance, and the other major villains. Hell, Silver did more than Knuckles, in reality, so fuck me, I guess. You can have a primary protagonist instead of supporting cast that are more than just bits of background decoration, in case you haven't seen, well, most seasons of Digimon other than Frontier.
Please don't start the rant, we'll be here for hours.
This bitch better not try me then!
I have no idea what either one of you were talking about.
You know, now that I think about it, Mr. Hippo might be a fitting mentor for you.
Wait, who?
Don't worry about it.
And that is also why Blaze has 2 Sonic games where it takes place in her dimension. And she gets less attention than Silver from Sega.
So you just stated that Blaze was one of the main stars in the Rush games, and then you say she gets less attention than Silver, who has no main games. What?
You do realize that Sonic Rush and Rush Adventure came out like a decade ago, specifically in 2005 and 2007. So it's not relevant to how much she gets attention from Sega today. And I wouldn't say that it was Blaze's main games just because it happens to be more centered around her. And at the end of the day, it's all about Sonic going on adventures. Shadow the Hedgehog is more fitting to that title since it circles around him and only him.
Okay, number 1. I'm going to say this one more time. A supporting character and a background character are not the same thing. Tell you what, I'll provide you with an example of the difference so that you can understand why your argument is dog shit.
It's not from Digimon Frontier, is it?
No, don't be silly.
Thank God.
It's from Dragon Ball Z.
God damn it.
At the end of the day, Dragon Ball's stories revolve around Goku saving the day in the end. Yes, other people are relevant at different points in assisting in that, but it's really Goku's story, even if Toriyama wanted to make it someone else's story at one point, but that's a whole different rant. The reason we don't see as much from the supporting characters is because of the fact that this is a video game and not an anime. Watch Sonic X. Shadow actually gets plenty more there. Hell, Tails has a love interest, more than you can say about him in the games. And don't even talk to me about the anime unless you've read the manga.
Sonic has a manga?
Well, okay, comics, but same thing. Silver's given more in the comics as well because there's more room in the comics for an expanded character roster than in the video games. But this is starting to put together where you're using real facts to make a point that, well, is false. Yes, other characters had bad debuts and were pushed further into the background. No, this does not mean that every character that was pushed in the background had a bad debut. No, this does not mean that every character that had a bad debut was pushed in the background. Silver is still a character that had a bad debut that was pushed into the background. Your entire defense here is already based on a leap of logic, and the fact that Alduin didn't pick up on that is on her. But you trying to circle around and justify saying that Blaze and Shadow were pushed in the background while also saying that Silver was less pushed in the background not only makes my head hurt, but is completely fucking pointless. I debunked your original point better than Alduin did, I debunked Alduin better than you did, and I'm debunking you because I have a giant commentary cock so you can commentate on D's nuts, you pink dick.
Pink dick?
They're not all winners, okay?
No, I'm just like, do you have something against the color pink that you need to tell me?
And in that case, why aren't you counting Sonic 06 as Silver's main game, or Sonic Rivals, or Rivals 2? Or better yet, why do fans want Sega for Blaze to have her own game if you really think that's enough for it to be more noticeable than Silver?
Okay, so let's just roll with this fuckstick logic that both of you are using. If she equates you saying that Blaze had games that took place in her dimension as her having main games, then that would mean that by her logic, a main Silver game would take place in his own setting. The future. Which doesn't apply to Sonic Rivals at all. And in Sonic 06 only applies to less than a third of the game, counting Silver's story. So, you know, by her logic, it's probably not a main Silver game either. As for the second statement...
Yeah, she ain't say shit about Blaze getting her own game. She just pointed out what she saw as a contradiction. I know what the video is actually about, so I know why a point like this could be in the video, but I legit don't know why you'd say something like that here of all places.
And I'm just here?
Didn't you not want to do this a little while ago?
Hey! Shut up! I made a Billie Eilish reference. I'm invested now.
Not to mention that a bunch of Silver fans, including myself, wants him to have his own game just because he's popular enough for us to want to know more about him.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Didn't you leave?
Hey.
I'm just saying. I mean, she didn't even manage to be in Sonic Forces, which was a complete wasted opportunity because I bet she could have a major role in the game.
Then again, she'd probably end up just talking like everyone else. So you're admitting that even if she does get added to the game, she'll just end up being a fucking waste. Why would you want her to be the game then if you know that they're not even gonna fucking use her adequately?
A little question, Alduin. You claim that I hate Blaze the same way as I kinda did to Amy Rose because Sylvace gets in the way of my shipping, but you just heard and confirmed me saying that I actually want her to be in Sonic Forces. What?
Shut up.
I'm sorry. This bitch just say you can't hate a character and still want them in the work they're a part of?
She sure did.
Is he about to go Super Saiyan?
Wrong anime?
I'm not entirely sure about that anymore.
I'm about to end this woman's whole fucking career. List of characters I hate but still want to see in the work that they're a part of. Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto, Byakuya Togami, Danganronpa, Bakugo Katsuki, My Hero Academia, TN, Dragon Ball Z, Death the Kid, Soul Eater, Griffin Kato, Rave Master, Squidward, SpongeBob SquarePants, Henry Wong, Digimon Tamers, Impmon, Digimon Tamers, Reaver, Fable. And by the fucking way, I'm a professional wrestling fan. The entire point of heels and other antagonists in other media. So guess what? I could go on. There are characters that you love to hate, you dicking chuckle fuck. And here's another part you seem to have missed. You can also hate a character for their position in the story without hating them as a person, thus indicating that you would want them in their own work where they could play a different role in the story. For example, on my end, Hinata Hyuga from Naruto. She's awful. She gets basically no development in my eyes other than, look at me, I have a Kikai Genkai, and basically only exists to eventually marry Naruto, a character she has zero chemistry with outside of her having a fangirl crush on him. Legit, if the relationship between her and Naruto wasn't as pushed in the story as it was, and she was able to do, I don't know, anything, maybe evolved into a less shy person during the story or something like that, or that relationship actually fucking developed on screen, I wouldn't hate this character, because she's a precious soft being that could kill you, and I tend to like characters like that. But that's how Mishimoto wrote this shit, so I don't. And that's not enough for you. I've also got an example from Season 5 of Samurai Jack.
Before Boon gets all the Rabbit Tadakowski fans on him again, I'm gonna bring up your rants on Akai because they indicate proof of her hatred of Amy being similar to what you don't like about Blaze, the role that she plays. You notice how she actually, draws Amy here, and she's doing it here to point out the differences between the characters, and what you're saying at this point is that you don't buy her saying that the characters are different because she's basically adding a symbol hit to Under Pressure to make it Ice Ice Baby, but she keeps including the character.
Okay, look, you have a valid point about her not being willing to say why she hates Amy and then drawing a character with similar physical traits but more mature. She could feel that Amy's an immature brat that's way too emotionally unstable. I know I do. Maybe she finds Amy borderline stalking Sonic creepy. I know I do. And yeah, that's a whole different can of worms about her hating shipping Sonic and Amy that you seem to miss. But like I said, it's a different can of worms. Basically, while your point about you wanting Blaze to be in Sonic Forces sounds like it shows a lack of hatred for Blaze, it shows a, from what I can tell, less severe hatred of Blaze, which, given how fervently you appear to be defending Silver from criticism, can be a valid sign of you having more similarities to Akai than you're willing to admit.
Or the debut was so bad to the point fans hate them? Whoever said that they hated Shadow or Blaze in the first appearance and they don't want to see them again? It's actually quite the opposite. Fans want to see more from them, including myself. Although Silver was the victim for being very hated in a couple of years, but he's very likable now, so there's no way he gets barely attention from Sega, that is, because he's not likable enough or he had a bad debut.
Well, I mean, if anything, these Sonic characters were popular enough to appear in spin-off games like the fucking Olympic games and the car games, so I wouldn't say that they're entirely shelved to the background.
Spin-off is a separate canon and not the actual canon, therefore it doesn't count.
Then why in the flying hell have you been talking about Sonic Rivals and shit?
Sonic Rivals is not in the main Sonic series. so it shouldn't count as an appearance from Silver. For that matter, Shadow the Hedgehog was also a spin-off because of, featuring a primary protagonist other than Sonic the Hedgehog. And if it's not, where the fuck has Black Doom been this whole time? Hey, fun fact, he was also the only major villain to not return in Sonic Forces or Sonic Generations. So, I'd say the games with literal returning villains ignoring the game's existence qualifies it for spin-off territory. This makes any argument about giving other characters their own games moot because they would be spin-offs, which means they wouldn't count.
What I'm saying is, these characters should have their own games. For example, Silver the Hedgehog. He's a 14-year-old hedgehog with a destroyed future. With his friend Blaze the Cat, Silver is an optimist, but also a realist, who is hopeful for a better future. Now, I mentioned Silver because he's a very important example of what Sega should do with their characters. What I'm saying is, give Silver his own game series. If you couldn't tell yet, Silver doesn't have that big of a fan base. In fact, he gets a lot of hate most of the time.
Oh my god! I couldn't disagree more! Why are people still acting like Silver doesn't get attention and love as before? And why are people still acting like Silver still got a lot of haters?
While people have definitely grown on Silver in recent years, it'd be unfair to say that Silver hasn't lived on through ironic memes. I mean, would you want to be known as one of the most poorly programmed boss fights in a video game? I don't see why she's in such denial about Silver's popularity. It kinda gives me the vibe as though she can't accept or consider the character's flaws.
Yeah, although when it's not like I'm the only one who thinks Silver's not underrated and people keep believing he doesn't get the quote-unquote love as he deserves. I mean, hey, even a hater of Silver admits that he's overrated. So,
Completely fucking irrelevant! A character being hated and getting tons of love are not mutually exclusive. The reason that both of you have evidence of Silver being loved and hated is because both of these things are true. The term I would use is divisive. And yes, people still dunk on Silver's original boss fights and debut. Is it fair? Well, yes and no. It's a bad first impression of the character, and it was legendarily bad. If I were making a video on top 10 worst boss fights of all time, I'd have to consider putting on there. That's going to color people's opinions of Silver, but does it reflect how the character is now? No. So like I said, is it fair? Yes and no. First impressions matter. Is basically the point here.
what exactly am I in denial of? I don't see how me acknowledging Silver's popularity has anything to do with me can't accept or consider his flaws.
Oh no, it doesn't. You saying he don't get hate does.
Characters can be both hated and loved. John Cena sucks! John Cena sucks!
What was that?
Oh god.
Rabbit Luigi can't save you now.
I don't see anybody.
Yep, that is in fact the joke.
Bitch, say I suck again. I'll body your ass without even breaking a sweat. You don't know. I'm a cosmic being of 100% pure mean force. Don't fuck with me. Thugonomics, C-Nation, hustle, loyalty, respect, Fruity Pebbles. Why you sound almost exactly like me? Hey yo, shut up!
Sonic Hedgehog 2, more like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, much of a dunce, to include the quilting circle that is so integral to Sonic's backstory.
Because Sonic 06 was rushed, he was forced to have slow gameplay, and not only that, but Sega handled his character in a way that he came off as annoying. He was too optimistic, not to mention that annoying voice.
So, again with the whole, because the game was rushed, I'm blaming on Silver's horrible debut.
Yes, and that's perfectly fine. Silver's gameplay was significantly slower and more tedious than the other characters' gameplay. As stated before, he had a lot of physics puzzles to work with, like those fucking balls in the desert, and he was significantly slower when you compared him to both Sonic and Shadow, which made it feel 100 times more fucking slow than it should have been. And considering Sonic games are defined for their speed, that's not exactly a good thing, is it?
Maybe Silver's not supposed to be as fast as Sonic and Shadow? Have you ever thought of that? You know, given the fact that he's psychokinetic and it just ruins originality if he was just another hedgehog who can run as fast just like Sonic and Shadow?
Okay, but you're kind of missing the problem here. I agree with you that Silver's gameplay didn't have to be all speed. There's a few problems. For one, you could actually provide evidence of slower paced gameplay that worked well in a Sonic game. So allow me to do your job for you Which is especially bad since this is something you said you had to do to call someone out. Sonic Adventures 1 and 2 had non-speed based levels where you play as someone other than Sonic, and in the case of 2, Shadow. You had the exploration themed levels for Knuckles and Rouge, the mech levels with Tails and Eggman, and that's just in Sonic Adventure 2, by the way. In fact, the latter are perhaps the best examples. Maybe you hated those too. I know a lot of people did, but the fact that they were associated with pre-existing characters instead of being someone's first appearance didn't stain their reputation as much. Sonic Heroes Team Mechanic takes the dynamic from these first two games of the multiple playstyles and basically brings them all onto the same level. You have Speed Mode for traditional Sonic gameplay, Power Mode for direct combat, and Fly Mode for... okay, Fly Formation is stupid, but still. You have the same concept, but within levels, meaning that the pace of the gameplay changes throughout. I mean, it's kind of supposed to anyway. Still. So let's jump to Sonic 06's implementation to prove why Sonic93's point is utter dogshit. Shadow isn't all speed. His gameplay is already slower than Sonic's, although not by as wide of a margin as the other characters in Adventure 2. Shadow's gameplay is an attempted refinement of what's in Shadow the Hedgehog, with more focus on vehicles and combat. It's, well, also awful, but that's beside the point. Silver has zero focus on speed, and even Knuckles and Rouge needed to travel great distances across maps quickly. Silver doesn't even get a chance to accelerate on foot, something that every Sonic character has. It was basically a testing ground for the Unreal Engine, a physics engine that the dev team butchered because they threw it in at the last minute. So the problem isn't that the central gameplay mechanic was not speed, it was that it was the opposite of what the series is about, and it was poorly implemented.
Besides, Silver wasn't the only slow character in the game. I honestly think Tails and Amy are way slower. Yes, he's slow, but he's not that slow that it feels like he's slow like a snail or something.
See, this is just a difference of opinion.
I mean, on top of the fact that Tails and Amy were only playable for part of the level and not literally a third of the story. Okay, is anyone really surprised that I played a Sonic game or two?
No, just wondering which one turned you into a furry.
Still on the furry thing, huh?
I bet it was Shadow.
Anyway, yes, besides that, you didn't find Silver's gameplay as slow as Amy and Tails. Fair, that's fine. I did, though. Now, I'm not going to say you're wrong for having a different view of the gameplay, but well, the problem here is that you're using your own opinion to say someone else is wrong.
With the gameplay, how slow he was, and was too optimistic and annoying, and has an annoying voice? What the fuck? I have never heard a fan saying they don't like a voice of a character, or especially how his debut was. I love Silver, but I ain't a fan of his does-the puzzle part either.
Hey, you know, I'm a big fan of Joey Wheeler from Yu-Gi-Oh! He's got an edge to him for sure, but he's a very supportive friend after having learned his lessons about being a dick to people in the past. And I feel that having a character that uses a lot of luck-based mechanics is very interesting and allows him to be one of the most skilled at the game while still having good reasons to lose often enough. He actually kind of embodies the calculated risks that a pro Magic player takes with his playstyle. His voice is fucking atrocious though.
And I think Vector the Crocodile is pretty underrated, but I'd be damned if his voice doesn't get on my nerves.
Oh, it's Vector you had a thing for, wasn't it?
Let me know when you're done obsessing over my sexual fantasies.
Sounds like I hit a nerve.
I could hit a nerve too, so...
Can it?
Well, geez, maybe they like Silver for reasons other than his voice acting and gameplay. Have you ever thought of that? Oh wow, that is so hard.
Well, maybe he should say why is Silver's favorite character instead of complaining about his debut and voice so much, especially when he claims that he wants Silver to have his own game. Has that ever came to your mind of how his logic makes absolutely no sense?
Shame you don't show enough of the original video to prove he doesn't do that.
What? Yeah, the clip she showed, that's the last one she shows of his video. At all. Okay, so normally I'm not one who likes to say that someone should show evidence of something that doesn't exist because that's an impossible standard. But every piece of context surrounding your points here, yeah, that indicates to me that it's reasonable to assume he did start talking about positives, but began by talking about what went wrong in his debut in order to contextualize what could be fixed, since this video is a critique on how Sega handles the Sonic franchise.
Yeah, the next 3 minutes is pretty much just this point.
You can't be serious.
Do I look like I'm joking?
You know, it's kind of hard to read your facial expression when you're made of fire.
He's not, I can tell.
Okay, you're wearing a helmet. It's even harder to read your face.
He's not joking, fam.
Yep, that checks out.
So that I might excise sin out from the Sonic canon!
Unfortunately, the hypocrisy doesn't stop there.
Does you taking 3 hours to say one word stop? Because that would be nice.
Silver fangirl on DA from this poster who was stating a similar opinion. But the thing is, it's even worse than the guy from YouTube, because she just kept going on and on how she finds Silver annoying and fucking annoying.
So, we're not allowed to address if a character is annoying or not? Is that really a bad thing? Because I play Borderlands and Claptrap is my favorite character, and yeah, he's annoying, but I still love the guy. He has some of the best lines and quests in Borderlands too. But I guess because I think he's an annoying character, that means that I hate the shit out of him.
Finding your favorite character's flaw annoying is one thing, but going on about the things they don't like about the quote-unquote annoying part about their favorite character over the actual thing that qualifies them as their quote-unquote favorite character is another. And like I said, Melody Sugarplum's points and logic are worse than Valak's. Hence my frustration and why I got so upset. And also, if Melody was the real issue of my video, why did you take this long to actually bring up the main topic?
Wait. When the fuck did she say that this person was the main issue? When did she ever give it any more emphasis than you gave it? Based on what's being said, my question is, why did it take you this long to get to the main issue? Is this even the main issue? What is life anymore? Are we human? Or are we dancer? Why am I quoting the Killers? Where's my...
Among other things that some fans are complaining about Silver. And she's supposed to be a Silver fangirl. Ha! Oh, please!
Who the fuck are you to judge who is and who isn't a fangirl of your favorite character? Did you honestly just make this video to gatekeep other Silver fans from having different reasons for enjoying the character? Or are you that protective of your fictional husbando?
Ah, yes. The first time I heard the word gatekeeping in my entire internet life.
Yes, you! Answer me, you maggot!
I find it funny how I'm supposedly doing something of the term I'm not even familiar with.
Miss 93, this isn't a valid defense.
Oh, yeah, you exist.
I do! Anyway, ignorance of the terminology for one's actions does not preclude you from taking those actions. If you kill someone, you can't just say that you don't know what murder is and get away with it, or say that you didn't plagiarize someone because you haven't heard the term plagiarism before. The action you perform is more important than the words someone else uses to describe that action.
Yeah, pretty much.
And honestly, when you laugh at someone for saying they're a fangirl when they have a critique, yes, that would be described as acting as a gatekeeper for who isn't allowed to like a character. I can't advise you to take such a weak defense against a charge like this. Let me just look for the maximum sentence in here. Here it is. You must roll your number to play again? Okay, I'm not sure what the legal definition of that is off the top of my head, but it sounds bad. Why do I get the feeling this is some sort of obscure reference?
My life is an obscure reference, honestly.
And to answer your question, Alduin, that's the problem. None of them will make it very clear of why they like Silver if Valak didn't like his debut, which is, like I said, where you usually start to like a character from, and Melody wouldn't stop bitching about the things she quote-unquote hates about his personality.
Okay, I haven't even seen what Melody has to say, so I can't speak on that, but, no, you don't necessarily like a character from their debut. Jet the Hawk had a fucking terrible debut, need I remind you that he was in the first Sonic Riders, which was slippery, hard to control, trash tier bullshit. After a lot of the issues were hammered out in later games though, he's now one of my favorite characters. Then you have Espio the Chameleon, possibly my legit favorite character, period. His debut was Knuckles Chaotix, which is regarded as one of the earliest terrible decisions in the Sonic franchise's history. Fuck, Espio wasn't even on my radar as a character I would potentially like until Sonic Heroes. And that was 3 games in for him. In summation, stop making statements for what someone likes a character for that aren't fucking true.
I mean, she did say what she liked about him, but not very much. And she was complaining about his quote-unquote flaws too much that sound like a hater more than a fan whom has a problem with their favorite character. And from fangirl to another fangirl, is it really that weird to be defensive over your husbando when you're seeing them being unjustified? I don't exactly see anything wrong with being defensive over a character you like, especially when they claim to be a huge fan of them, but makes it clear that they're not.
Congratulations! Your defense against gatekeeping is to give the definition of gatekeeping as the description for what you're doing.
Okay, it says here that another of the sentences is, "You are banished to the black hole?" Okay, I'm pretty sure I don't have a license to practice where you're from, so I wouldn't be able to represent you on this one anyway.
Do not make me laugh.
I'm sorry, real quick. Did she just laugh in the middle of telling someone to not make her laugh?
Yep.
Wow. You know what? You're lame and you should feel lame. And I'm going to make that happen. When I kick you in the shins.
What's with you and the shin kicking thing? Babe, do you need to get something off your chest?
Aww, you called me babe in public!
This is really gay.
Shut up.
Just so you guys won't think I'm only saying this because, I'm a Silver fan of myself and I practically want to be the best one has ever gotten.
Yes, that is the exact vibe I'm getting from what I've seen this entire video so far. You're just sitting here like, if you judge Silver, you can't be a fangirl of him like me. I fucking pray to night at him every day. I read my Bible of Silver the Hedgehog. You will never live up to my expectations about what it means to be a Silver fangirl.
My goodness, Alduin, can't you take a joke? Why you gotta be so serious all the time? Turn that frown upside down. And a little hintity hint, I'm a Muslim.
Okay, great, so am I. So what's your point?
No, none of this. Fuck you.
I mean, do you mean here, or did you want to get a hotel room? Isn't this like just a giant cliff with people's faces on it? I don't know who these people are. They a JoJo reference?
Not what I meant. You're gonna start an entire fucking chain because apparently responding to a joke with a joke means that you're taking it seriously, and it's gonna be a massive fucking chain reaction, and somehow B-Movie's gonna get involved, and I don't... No. Just no.
Okay, wow. Maybe you should just take me up on that offer.
I have a boyfriend.
Did I say it had to be one-on-one?
How is this video still monetized?
I'm gonna read it for you so you can see where I'm coming from. So this is basically another reading from me, so I hope you enjoy it, folks. Alright, I'm gonna start right now. I'm personally a huge Silver fan, and there's a lot of things I love about the character, like his cuteness, his innocent naivety, is that even a word? And optimistic I have to save the world personality. I also really love how he's so sweet and saves others, but there are things that I hate about his personality. Wait, what? Didn't you just establish the things you love about his character? And then the very next sentence, you change it into there are things you hate about his personality? And I'm not saying you should view him as a perfect character, because no character is, nor should be, considered perfect and flawless. But you contradict yourself big time if you use the word hate when you just said what you like about his personality, and if you're a huge fan of Silver.
Quite the statement, Sonic93. So you have to like a character's personality no matter how shitty they act? Does that mean I have to justify and agree with Eddie Gluskin being a serial killer who mutilates men to create brides? Do I have to condone Dylan Fuentes wanting to tie up people in his sex dungeon and can't disagree with it whatsoever? Do I have to support Reaper for committing acts of terrorism? This statement completely falls flat given the assortment of characters you could easily apply this statement that she made to. How is pointing out what you don't like or like in a character contradictory? Is this opinion that shouldn't even fucking matter to you? Everyone has their own feelings regarding their favorite characters, whether it be mostly positive or negative. Who are you to decide what we can and cannot like about our favorite characters?
Oh my god. All I hear is blah 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 and more blah blah. Alduin, you can't just say that you love a character's personality and then you say you hate it at the same time. That's contradiction right there. It's one thing to not agree with everything what they're doing. It's another for saying something and then saying the opposite right after. That doesn't go well with her statement of, there's a lot of things I love about the character. And then she immediately goes to what she hates about his personality and focused at the most. It'd be better if she said, there's some things I don't like about him, or I think he can be improved.
See, maybe it could have been worded a little better, but let's take in everything this Melody person said. And you totally can primarily talk about things you don't like about a character given the right context, which you show none of. Okay, you show the poster that she commented on. Any context for the conversation? What about the description on the works page that may have steered the conversation in a certain direction? Were there a lot of comments before that were asking why he was so bad in Sonic 06? Or they were saying that Silver's fangirls can't recognize the bad parts of the character? With no context whatsoever, I can't say if it sounds like she's calling herself a fan but focusing on negative aspects. Even if she is. Who cares? I feel like I could say quite a bit here that belongs in my final thoughts, but to sum it up for now, it would really only be misrepresentative if what she was saying that was negative about Silver were, inaccurate.
That is why you would know at the same argument I said this. And I'm not saying you should view him as a perfect character, because no character is, nor should be, considered perfect and flawless. And the characters you just mentioned are not in the same franchise or similar genre of video games and personalities, so it's not a good comparison, nor is it anything related to Silver's personality that Melody was complaining about.
Except for the part where it is, because she's saying you're implying that you can't have problems with an aspect of your favorite character.
And her examples of characters that do evil things, just to... Yeah, that's gonna be relevant.
And if you still like the characters whom have done some really messed up stuffs, why can't Melody be okay with the flaws she states of Silver, which isn't half as bad as your favorite characters? Which, by the way, aren't even flaws to begin with, but it's just her being picky and incredibly unfair.
Which I'm guessing your original video is supposed to prove, but more importantly, that's exactly what she was saying. So, 93... why can't she be okay with aspects of character that she hates and still call herself a fan if you accept that Alduin is doing the same thing? That sounds, picky and incredibly unfair on your part.
And also, how is Silver not being serious when he confronts Sonic or Shadow? He defeats Sonic with an ease, even if he plays him and defeats Silver. He still gets back on his feet and pushes him into the wall, and Sonic pretty much got defeated. Not to mention the 2 times he stopped Sonic from rescuing Elise. Again, How is that not a serious character when he shows himself to be threatening?
Melody wasn't pointing out how Silver wasn't serious. If you paid close attention to what she said, she was pointing out how Silver's character is inconsistent. Being all whiny for one cutscene and being totally balls to the wall serious the next. That's an issue someone can have with a character, is when they're not being in character.
How can they be out of character when they just got introduced to the franchise? And like in real life, you're seeing different sides of a character and not just one side of their personalities. That doesn't make them inconsistent or out of character.
Wait, fuck, was I supposed to put a skip screen there? Oh yeah! She, skipped over a bit of Alduin's video where Alduin played a read in a comment. It's the part with the red faces from earlier. Oh. Well, yeah, he does act super serious when he's around Sonic and Shadow, and most other times he seems like a whiny bitch, specifically in Sonic 06. And you're right, characters, like people, can have multiple aspects to them.
Like how Jacob has a massive fucking temper and tends to be more serious around someone he perceives as threatening, but when he's around someone he considers a friend, he's more relaxed and more easily flustered when talking about his love life. Nor sex life. Mostly sex life.
Dale, I don't know how comfortable I am getting called out like this.
See what I mean?
I mean, yeah, exactly. If he was just a murderous psychopath, we wouldn't be doing this. He's a good guy deep down, though, and even if he's, well, kind of quick to jump to conclusions a lot of the time.
I find you made your point, test passed.
That's what I thought.
But if that serious nature is part of his character, then why doesn't that come out when speaking to Mephiles or Blaze more? Honestly, I could see him as feeling the serious tone was built out of an obligation more if there were more of a depiction of a shift rather than him just being different. If you compare him to Sonic in the same game, he does act more lax around Elise or Tails or Knuckles than in a situation where he's in front of Eggman or something, but it's not as dramatic a shift, at least not by my estimation. Yes, a character can be written out of character when they debut, and that often makes it unclear what's out of character and what's not, as at that point it's primarily a descriptor for the character that is written with inconsistent personality traits. This is actually a frequent issue with first-time appearances of characters that tends to get hammered out down the line, though. But she's not talking about those.
It's just more about seeing different sides of their personalities, which I honestly wish that Sega would elaborate and not just keep making them act the same way in different situations.
Yeah! You know what would help with that? Giving them scenes that show how these aspects of their personality affect them. If Silver's got this duality between the serious demeanor and more childlike naive one, even something as simple as a sigh of relief when he feels comfortable dropping the former would make sense, as it would show where that depth comes from. Like, okay, that's just how I imagine it being written, but that could show that him acting like a tough guy is something he feels obligated to do. It's part of his duty to save the world that he feels rests on his shoulders. I've always seen Silver as a bit of a martyr at heart, pushing himself into this obligation to do something in order to change the apocalyptic future he's in. In his brain, he doesn't so much want to do this as he feels he has no choice. Although in reality, we all know he could be doing a better job of assessing the situation. I'll be going back to this interpretation later, I'm sure. But basically, that's why I feel like playing it off almost like a superhero secret identity without the mask would have worked really well and done a better job portraying that this was layered instead of just bad writing.
Even though it was really just bad writing?
Why do you think they didn't think of doing this in the first place?
And Melody didn't say he's all serious when he's around Sonic or Shadow. She says he's acting all serious when he's around Sonic or Shadow.
Okay, based on your proof against her being to point out how Silver can kick their asses, I get the feeling that you didn't pick up on this because she wasn't talking about his threat level. She was talking about the way he carried himself, or the way he acted. She perceives his other scenes as more of a reflection of his true personality, which makes sense when he has no one to make himself look good in front of during a lot of these moments.
I just find that really annoying. Silver's also very silly and gullible for believing a hedgehog with no mouth.
Okay, you must get very easily annoyed if someone who just simply get amazed by something annoying. And I have seen people stating on why they don't like Silver's because of how easily tricked he was by Mephiles. I've even seen two memes saying the same thing. It's like they have forgotten that he was desperate to save his future, and not only did Mephiles take advantage of that, but he also made it clear that he's aware of Iblis as a whole. So technically, he didn't lie to Silver, he only misled him from the actual truth.
You know, you think those memes that you showed would clear up why his naive nature is a bad thing? I understand that Silver wanted to stop Iblis from destroying the world, but to blindly trust Mephiles without even questioning a word he said, or asking other people about Sonic, or the history of the Flames disaster, or hell, even asking who Mephiles is might have made the whole act of preventing Iblis 100 times more easier than what actually happened!
What the fuck are you even saying? That troll music is so damn loud, I can't even comprehend what you said at the last part. The only thing I got was this, Silver should question Mephiles instead of blindly believing in him, even though Blaze did the same thing, but since she's a better character than Silver, I'm not gonna even bother questioning that.
Okay, valid. Yeah, Blaze also took Mephiles at his word, and considering he had no fucking mouth, there should have been a dead giveaway there. So Blaze already had an established personality before now, and we're not talking about Blaze. And here's something you may have noticed about Silver. Notice how any other time something about someone getting hurt for the greater good gets mentioned, he questions if it's necessary. But for some reason, murdering Sonic is just perfectly fine and dandy for him. Would probably not be as bad if this gambit of villain trick secondary hero didn't come up every fucking game. But details. Seriously, Nux, get your shit together.
And also, need I to remind this stupid fanbase that Knuckles has been tricked by the same person more than once? And I don't see people complain about that.
You know that Knuckles being a bonehead has always been kind of a present theme in Sonic, right? I'm pretty sure the fans are well aware that Knuckles acts on impulse because of how hot-headed he is. I mean, even when he does act irrationally, it really comes at the expense of the world getting fucked over.
If I understood what Alduin said right, you're basically saying Knuckles being a bonehead, acting on impulse because he's a hothead and irrational is better than Silver desperately believing in Mephiles because it's an expense of the world coming to an end. Well, in that case, shouldn't Knuckles know better to not trust the same person twice or more? I don't see how that's better than having no choice but to believe in a stranger whom is telling you what you want to hear out of manipulation, and out of desperation, you're going for it.
Well, for one, Knuckles lived in isolation and believes in honesty above all else, while Silver has been seen with at least one regular partner, and it's implied there are other people he deals with on a regular basis. For two, what I said earlier, it's the only time Silver doesn't question someone else getting hurt, which makes it inconsistent instead of multifaceted.
But one game and only time that Silver was tricked by and could even question Mephiles at one point is apparently an idiot because, Mephiles doesn't look believable even though he makes it clear he knows what he's talking about.
She's clearly talking about him having no mouth, an obvious abnormality when compared to literally every other character we see in Sonic 06 numbnuts. He looks suspicious, so there's good reason to question him off of that alone.
Did you also consider the fact that no one else directly states what happened in Silver's future, and yet for some reason, a dude he's never seen before coming out of fucking nowhere and telling him we gotta go back to the past, Samurai Jack, doesn't train as suspicious for someone who questions sealing Iblis into Elise or Blaze sealing herself into another dimension? And this point where he questioned Mephiles was after nearly killing Sonic for the first time and getting stopped because he refused to hurt Amy, who was standing in his way. If he was so desperate that he believed anyone who told him there was a way to change things, why wouldn't he just go after Amy too when he found out she'd protect him at all cost? After all, she's likely part of the problem based on what he knows, but him questioning after that encounter still doesn't make sense because at that point, he's believing a complete stranger from a timeline where the bad thing hasn't happened yet over someone who, in accordance with his own logic, knows exactly what is going to happen.
There's also the wording of Silver's question, which doesn't really present the question of if Sonic actually does anything wrong, but instead asks a question on his motivation. Mephiles' answer to that question is who fucking cares? And Silver just drops it, which comes across as callous for such a supposedly kind-hearted character, don't you think?
And while we're on Silver's stupidity, isn't it weird that a character known for making poor decisions like this is a telepath? I mean, maybe it's just me, but I feel like based on his emotion-driven decision-making, it probably would make more sense if his powers were based on being an empath rather than psychokinesis.
I mean, well, they could be for all the game tells us about them, but still.
Hey, not to be the sort to get things back on track, but can we get things back on track here?
Oh yeah, right, Alduin hadn't made a point yet. Might be.
I find it silly when he says,
If I eliminate that guy, will our world be saved?
Silver, in my opinion, lacks critical thinking and believe anything people tell him without a question or finding out the information is actual. Especially coming from a hedgehog with snake eyes and no mouth.
This girl sure does love to repeat herself, doesn't she?
And so do you! Wow, you can't judge Silver! Stop calling him annoying! Silver's perfect and did nothing wrong! If you judge Silver, you aren't a true Sonic fan!
Well, Alduin, I guess that makes 3 of us because you're not adding anything new to the table yourself. You keep making the same speed-up jokes that you used 10 times so far, keep having the same music, which is louder than your audio, and you keep repeating yourself. And also, nice Yoshi 1 reference with the whole, if you don't like what Sega does, I guess you're not a Sonic fan. I'm sorry to say that.
But she was calling out you for saying that. Like, I don't know if what you're doing is the quote, or what she's doing is the quote, because I have no idea who Yoshi 1 is, but it doesn't even matter either way. Either she's not actually making the reference and you're saying she is because it's similar sentiment. She is making the reference and you just padded the video by feeling the need to clarify what the reference was but didn't want to sound repetitive, so you did it wrong on purpose. Or neither is the actual reference and you're just saying it's a reference because she's using a sentiment you've heard elsewhere. Either way, it's not remotely relevant.
Yeah, here's the part where I go on both of your asses. Alduin, I sure as hell hadn't heard a ton of repetition from Ruth. She explained why she felt the points are invalid, sure, but repetition ain't something that I've heard a whole lot of. Of course, if you're talking about her reading a comment as quotation, and to provide the context that she's being repetitive, she needs that quote.
I mean, that being said, 93's original point about Melody repeating herself isn't great either, since Melody is just accentuating that Mephiles had elements of his physical appearance that indicated why he shouldn't be trusted. Kinda like what we already went over?
And as for her using the same music throughout, first of all, it's not louder than her speaking voice, at least not to me, and I can hear her just fine, although perhaps your difficulty comes from the fact that her mic isn't the best? I mean, it's not terrible, but it's definitely a little tinny, you know? That might be making it harder for you in particular to hear her, since those sounds can mix into the background audio very easily for some people. I've had some of my own audio that didn't come out as clearly as I wanted because of mixing poorly with the bass, but I made attempts to adjust. I don't really hear a huge problem here though, just, well, something you could have gotten from it that I didn't. And the speeding up isn't a gag, it's a way to shorten the video while still maintaining the context of what you are saying, because you're still very understandable even when sped up. So calling that out as repetition is, well, grasping at straws. At best.
On top of that, I hate how he was separated from Blaze. He was shouting, Blaze! Like he couldn't be alone without her, as stated by Blaze herself. That Silver's insecure while being alone. And I just find that a little annoying, especially from a hedgehog that's supposed to look cool and act all serious, like Shadow when it's available.
Okay. One word for this. Shallow! Seriously! Can you
accept his flaws? Why are you treating a fictional hedgehog like a real person where you need to like everything he does to be a true fangirl? Everyone has their own reasons for liking a character, whether it be their looks, their personality, or how relatable their motivations are. Once again, who the fuck are you to gatekeep who can and cannot be a fan of Silver?
So, you mean to say that it's completely fine to like a character only for their looks and not caring for anything else about them other than their looks? How is that accepting whether it's fiction or real life? So, it's not okay for Yoshi 1 for being shallow to Amy, but it's completely fine if Melody is to Silver? Honestly, I wouldn't care that she only likes him for his looks if she didn't say that there's a lot about the things she likes about the character and is a quote-unquote huge fan of him. That's not gatekeeping. That's me not understanding how she can call herself that when she clearly has more problems with him than liking the way he was made to be and just want to be improved.
Okay, who the fuck is Yoshi 1? Seriously.
Yoshi Wii 1, actually. Somebody else Sonic93 ran it on at some point.
Oh. The fuck does this have to do with Alduin? I'm looking for some kind of relevance here. Help me out.
And for that matter, when did Alduin say anything about only liking a character for their looks? They said it was a reason to like a character, but never even implied that anything was really the only reason.
But back to 93. You do have a partial point. There's a difference between calling someone out for basically lying about their own opinion and gatekeeping people for not liking a character for the reasons you do. It's a shame that the latter is exactly what you're doing. You're right, she does say that she likes aspects of the character. His optimism, his innocence, his kindness. Okay, but that doesn't mean that the things that she's detailing as problems counteract these. She doesn't like the tough guy persona he sometimes puts on in Sonic 06, for example. Yeah, he can still have traits that she likes without that. She didn't like that he was whiny. A character can be more innocent and naive without being whiny. The closest to contradicting we get is her talking about him being gullible and not questioning Mephiles, which seems to contradict liking his naivete. Here's the problem. She can like him being naive and still think he's too naive at some points. So although this sounds on the surface like it could be a contradiction, and it still very well could, don't get me wrong, it's easy to explain that it's too much of something that she likes.
I like my men tall, dark, and hot-headed, but if Jacob was like twice my height and went to roid rage by so much as breathed in the wrong cadence, then that'd be too much of a good thing for me.
What about the dark part?
Well, I can't exactly say burnt at this point now, can I?
And no, she doesn't need to accept his flaws, but, Alduin, weren't you the one who was talking about liking a character in spite of their flaws? That is a form of acceptance. You take the good with the bad, much like you do with Eddie Gluskin. And yes, there's a different degree to that when talking about fictional characters. Accepting your husbando as a psychopathic mutilator is a different idea with a fictional character as opposed to doing that with a real person, but the concept of accepting that the flaws exist is still there.
Silver is very mature, and when Shadow hit him, I hate that scene so much, you guys have no idea how much I hate it. Sorry, I'll go on. He shouted, "You!" as well as when Sonic said, "Silver, I can handle this myself."
Besides, he has somewhere to go, right?
Silver shouted,
You.
again, and I thought it was really annoying. I also really do not like how he acts all serious and tough in Rivals, but behind the scenes, he acts immature.
It's like she doesn't see the context of what Silver's doing, but focus more on how
annoying
he sounds like. I have never heard someone being this annoyed by how a character talks.
So it isn't annoying when a character can't properly convey a good reaction to what's going on in the environment around them? I don't think you really need context for Silver only replying with, "Ew!" Again, they're also stating how Silver's character is inconsistent. Hey, maybe they also like Silver's appearances in the games besides this. It's not like you can always ask them why they like Silver. Oh wait, you totally could.
This is coming from someone whom wasn't asking me anything, but just trying to make me mad by spamming 2-3 times of
"Silver's not fucking real."
And when I didn't answer, you eventually call me a hypocrite and then decide to make this garbage video you call a commentary. and portray me as a dumb fan brat.
If it pleases the court,
There ain't no court here, Mang.
Fuck you! I would like to reintroduce Exhibits A and B, presented by Miss 93 herself as evidence of this alleged trolling. Notice how Miss 93 responds to these comments, but her response indicates a differently worded interpretation of what she was accused of.
I mean, yeah, she did reach out to you, callous as the way she did it was. That being said, Alduin, I fucking hate your point too. The whole point of why didn't you ask them really bothers me, because most of the time, it's coming from someone who isn't likely to ask for clarification to begin with, and is really just an excuse to have a point where you really don't have anything to say. You even pointed out that part of the issue was repetitive and poorly thought out dialogue that did a poor job of conveying emotion and just sounded, well, annoying. So it's not like saying to ask them like you've got Melody in the fucking Walls of Jericho and Sonic93's The Ref is even relevant. See, that's the thing. Sonic93 isn't the only one shitting the bed here.
Nah, but she's not the one getting doxxed.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I ain't listening to someone whom is found to own a device. It's just that simple. And again, why is Silver's flaws bothering you this much if you're supposedly a huge fan of him? I don't play Sonic Rivals, I don't know much what's going on in those games, or what he's doing in there, but either way, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because I will always, and I mean it, I will always love him just the way he is. And also, from the little I've seen in the game, he might act more quote-unquote immature or whatever, but honestly, I couldn't care less. It doesn't change my mind of how I see in Silver. In fact, it makes me want to be supportive of him, and that's what you should do as a fangirl, people.
Well, I guess I'm not an Eddie Gluskin fangirl then, because I think him trying to cut off Waylon's penis is a no-no.
You know what you got yourself into when liking a character like Eddie Gluskin, so to be fair, you don't really have a reason to complain. And same thing goes to Mela Sugarplum with Silver. Your morals should have nothing to do with your feelings towards a character because you like them regardless of the good or bad stuff they do, which is what you do with Eddie Gluskin, Alduin. So why is it so hard for Melody to do the same with Silver?
Because, you know, as we all know, saying the things that you don't like is totally the same as not accepting them. Here's the part where Alduin is getting that you're saying that the person has to view a character as perfect in order to be a fan, because you're telling her that even acknowledging that the character has faults or has a reason they aren't a good person in real life means that you can't accept those flaws. You are telling her that if she says she doesn't like an aspect of the character, that negates the fact that she likes others. You're getting really fucking close to getting me to rant about Koichi, bitch. Don't fucking try me. I will do it.
Not what this faker doing.
I found you, faker.
This is the only joke I actually think it's funny. It's got everything. It's got the perfect timing, a legit joke, and it's very original compared to the other horrible jokes she has done in this whole video. No, I'm being serious. Alduin unintentionally gave me the actual entertainment I can truly enjoy. So, gotta give you credits for that, girl. But don't push your luck. That is the only time I will give you praise for.
Oh, good. The whole broken clock's right twice a day cliche.
Shouldn't we just skip over this?
Not really. Because there's problems with this, too.
How is there a problem with her saying somebody did something good?
Oh, lots. So, for one, humor is subjective. Yes, there are actual measures to how something can be humorous, but to say, this is the only thing I found funny, isn't really all that meaningful when it's your only real point. But it's not. You point out that this is well-timed, which, well, the only other actual joke I've seen also used effective comedic timing, so what the fuck does that tell you? And you said it was unintentional. You know she put this here on purpose, right? She puts it right next to you calling someone faker. It's a media clip of Sonic saying, I found you, faker. It's an intentional joke. And then we hit on the other note of why it's good compared to others. Originality. So pulling a media clip out of your ass from a Sonic game that's been memed to death That's what originality is to you?
I'm not saying it.
An example is when Silver couldn't find Espio, and he said, Espio, where'd you go? Well, fine, I don't need you anyway. I don't need you anyway. But if that was the case, how come he was shouting Espio's name after that? I feel like he's a brat who doesn't get his way. An example is like Rivals, where he shouts at anyone who needs to talk to Eggman for personal reasons. Instead of talking things out with them and working together, and maybe he could help Silver, if Silver was so selfish and arrogant, to yell and say, get out of my way, I got personal business.
Well, what can I say about this one? She clearly doesn't know Silver at all. If he's determined about something, you would know he wouldn't let anyone get in his way.
You know, like when he was gonna kill Sonic and Amy just standing in front of him made him Fuck, do you know anything about Silver's character?
Which would explain of his quote-unquote arrogant, quote-unquote brat, and quote-unquote selfish behavior. And Sonic and Silver didn't even know each other. So what makes you think he's just gonna be all like, hey, let's cooperate someone I don't even know and just met?
That would make sense if he didn't freely share information with Shadow. Freely. Never mind the bullshit of just plain making Sonic 06 not canon within months of its release, assuming that Sonic Rivals is supposed to be canon to begin with. It's a spin-off. I'm assuming it's non-canon. But if you're assuming that it's canon, it's inconsistent, because that means that either Rivals takes place before Sonic 06, which makes no sense, because then Silver would know who Sonic is during 06 and wouldn't be out to kill him, on top of the fact that he would have had no way to time travel before the events of 06. Or the other interpretation of that is that Sonic 06 happened first, and Silver just has the worst memory, since he saved the world alongside Sonic and Shadow before, and now he's working against them. I mean, either that, or one of the two wasn't intended to be canon to begin with. And I have further proof that Sonic 06 is the more likely one to be canon, considering Sonic 06 directly references the Sonic Rush series, and Sonic Rivals is entirely self-contained. Yeah. Authorial intent, folks. It matters sometimes.
Look, just stop asking me already. It's no use. You're not going to get me to... Fuck.
Well, Silver being arrogant towards others and not listening to what others say before acting on impulse seems like a pretty agitating trait for a character to have.
Wait, Alduin. Hold up. Didn't you say this about Knuckles when it comes to acting on impulse?
You know that Knuckles being a bonehead has always been kind of a present theme in Sonic, right? I'm pretty sure the fans are well aware that Knuckles acts on impulse because of how hot-headed he is.
So, Knuckles acting on impulse because he's a hothead gets a pass, but not Silver, whom is kind of doing the same, but not because he's a hothead, but because he's such a determined character whom doesn't know any better is somehow different? How is Silver's character trait being agitated any different from Knuckles' trait being something similar?
The reasons behind it, Silver should know better. Knuckles has always done everything alone. He had no family and friends. Silver, as explained by Blaze, is insecure when he's alone. So it would stand to reason that he'd be less insecure with allies, and displayed with Amy and Shadow in Sonic 06, on top of Espio in Sonic Rivals 2. He's very quick to make allies. Hell, this would be a valid explanation for why he would trust Mephiles without asking a lot of questions. But now for plot convenience, he's all loner badass again. You don't see how people might call that inconsistent?
It's funny that you think Silver's justified when denying to cooperate with Sonic, but when Silver decides to listen to what Mephiles has to say, it's A-okay.
The difference with Silver listening to Mephiles and him not listening to Sonic is that Silver was desperate to save his future and could take any information he could get. But with Sonic and Rivals, it was all about who could get to Eggman first, and the game is called Sonic Rivals for a reason, where everyone is being competitive.
Well, I mean, except for the fact that there's nothing stopping any of the characters from racing each other and giving each other information, like is done throughout the story. In addition, this theming is pretty much ignored in Sonic Rivals 2, with battles being the result of small differentiations between the motivations of the characters, and actually having a story structure more akin to Sonic Heroes. Like, you know you don't have to have characters be antagonistic towards each other for them to each want to be the hero, right? You can have protagonists with different priorities, but this is actually pulled off better in Rivals 2, with Knuckles and Rouge primarily interested in the Master Emerald, Shadow and Metal Sonic intending to beat Nega to the Chaos Emeralds, Silver and Espio focused on hiding the Chow, and Sonic and Tails focused on just plain fighting Nega directly. Hell, Silver's interaction with Knuckles pretty much goes with Silver asking for the Chow he's got, and Knuckles going, "Oh yeah, dude, sure. I need rings anyway, later, brah." And they all have different means, but those branching paths end up leading to the same place through development of individual stories. So no, the fact that Sonic Rivals has a versus theme doesn't preclude Silver from being cooperative towards others. Which you should know because Team Sonic Racing exists!
And what happened to the spin-offs being a separate canon? If the gameplay in Sonic Rivals dictates that he has to act differently from normal, then shouldn't that make the case that Sonic Rivals is a spin-off, and thus not beholden to Silver's normal characterization? If you really meant what you were saying about spin-offs not counting because they're a separate canon, that's a way easier way of calling Melody's logic into question than what you're said here, isn't it?
Again, I don't know much about the plot of Sonic Rivals series, but I know for sure, however Silver's acting is not coming from the wrong place in his heart.
You've never played the game. You don't know what Silver does in that game. He might have fucking ate babies. You wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Maybe he did eat babies in that game.
I think you need a little break from playing horror games to understand that you don't need to play a different Sonic game to understand how the character would act.
But you just said that Silver acted differently in that game because of the gameplay, which you haven't played! Like, that indicates that you at least have to be aware of the gameplay aspects of the game to know how a character acts. You know Silver's a literal kidnapper in Sonic Rivals 2? That sure ain't something he does, it's dictated by the fucking gameplay!
Cut him some slack. You even said that he has reasons for it.
Exactly my point! He still kidnaps Chow throughout the game as one of his main goals. And it still comes from the right place in his heart, even if other people, like Vector for example, would disagree. Your statement about the way he's acting being right in his view means nothing, because guess what, fuckface? Eddie Gloskin thinks he's right too. So does Thanos. So does Dio. So does Hitler. And worst of all,
so does Anders. Fuck you, my joke now, bitch!
And it really irks me of how she just doesn't get that and make him sound like a bad character. And again, this is from someone who's supposed to be a huge fan of him. And FYI, Silver was wondering where Espio went, since Espio was spying him around regarding child disappearances. And I think it was also because he didn't know what he was up to. So him saying, "Fine, I don't need you anyway," does not make him sound arrogant, bratty, or whatever, as you claimed. Besides, that was also before they both decided to team up.
except her complaint isn't even that he does that in the first place. At least not entirely. Her primary complaint is that he goes from not giving a shit about Espio in 1 minute to, by the end of the zone where he hasn't fucking seen him again, wanting to know where he is like a baby who doesn't have object permanency yet. And him wondering where he went later was also before they decided to team up. Like, you do need to have played the game, or at least read the fucking script, to understand the events going on properly. You sure you're not jumping on someone for having a different opinion from you?
And another thing, you're acting like Silver can't be cooperative, but once Espio believed what he said about protecting the Chow, Silver explained to him what was going on with the whole Eggman Nega wants to release Ifrit. Kinda like Mephiles releasing Iblis plot. Same thing can be said about saving Sonic and coming up with the idea of fixing the timeline to rescue Elise and Eggman from dying once he found out the truth about Mephiles, thanks to Shadow.
Yeah, this is another hole in what you say about the difference in the Mephiles situation and Sonic Rivals that I was saving for right here, since this is confirmation that you know that the excuse is bullshit. In Rivals 2, he's trying to save his future from an apocalypse of a similar nature to Sonic 06, caused by a fire-based cosmic entity. Huh. So the difference between Silver being desperate because of his bleak future applies to Sonic Rivals too. So, why does he eschew everyone's help but Espio's? Is it because Espio has similar colors to Blaze? He still got that cat boner going?
Okay, seriously, how is this video still monetized?
I find that very disrespectful, especially saying that to someone you didn't even meet.
What the hell are you talking about? Am I missing something here, folks?
Because it totally wouldn't be disrespectful if someone told you they'd be better off without you or your help, right?
Alduin, you haven't played the game yourself, so how can you agree with what Melody Sugarplum is saying about how Silver acted if you haven't seen the cutscenes to make your own judgment? Aren't you kind of blindly believing her when you don't know yourself what happened in the game?
You just said you hadn't played the fucking game! How can you disagree without having made your own judgment? I know you can understand what's in a game's cutscenes without having played it directly, namely through reading through the scripts or watching online playthroughs or whatnot. But it's your logic that's invalidating everything you say about Sonic Rivals.
On top of the fact that she keeps getting context wrong and having it proven wrong.
Exactly! So, you know what this bullshit calls for?
Either Sonic is a god or could kill God, and I do not care if there is a difference!
Huh. No, that was shorter than I thought it would be.
Oh no, there's just something here I know you're gonna want to comment on.
Okay, this one is hilarious. Not only is she making Silver once again look bad, and again, she's supposedly a huge fan of him, but she also seems to forget of that SBO was the one who came up with the idea of stealing rings from Sonic and Tails because Sil was exhausted and needed rings to recover his energy.
Sonic93, you do realize you're defending the fact a teenager just stole from an 8-year-old, right? Geez, I wonder if this wasn't the character you masturbate to every day, you'd think that this was a terrible thing for someone to do. Hell, they even said he didn't apologize for doing that. I don't get how this shit could easily fly over your head like this. You even acknowledged that Silver only did it because he yet again blindly followed someone. If Silver was really injured and exhausted, do you think it would have been easier for him to ask for some rings? I mean, being friendly and kind has always kind of been something that Tails has been associated with, so I doubt he wouldn't hesitate to slide him a few.
Alduin, you have no right to talk about how Silver couldn't handle the situation or accusing him to blindly follow someone when you haven't seen the cutscenes yourself. Even if I haven't played the game myself, I at the very least looked through the cutscenes Melody was talking about so I can make my own argument. And, I'm defending a teenager stealing something from an 8-year-old, even though Espio was gonna do the same with Sonic to help out Silver gaining his energy back, and Tails didn't react the way Melody stated he did?
So, Silver's not guilty because SBO came up with the idea?
That's not how that works. Conspiracy to commit a crime is still a crime. In fact, it really just makes Silver on the hook for both his own theft as well as...
No, shush. I got this. This bitch don't know SBO.
Okay.
Is he going Super Saiyan now?
Still the wrong anime.
Ruth. The reason SBO came up with an idea like that is because SBO's the one who wouldn't ask for help. In fact, facing off against Sonic would likely be treated like a challenge to him. So, yeah, it does make sense for the stubborn and combative SBO to go with this plan. What doesn't make sense is for Silver, who just a little while ago had gotten help from someone else when he asked for it, wouldn't think of just asking for help, especially since, he's not normally stubborn and combative. You say you watched the cutscenes to get the context, and sure, Tails didn't cry on camera.
And you're still defending Silver's actions, whether they were motivated by someone else or not. They don't suddenly not become a thing that Silver did. You think that Silver calling him half pint and straight up jacking his shit isn't a dick move? Oh no, of course not. Because silver-haired pretty boys can't be assholes, right? I'm a lawyer. Being an asshole is my job. Fuck you.
I feel like you're taking some of this a bit personal.
Hey, maybe you're not taking this personal enough.
Well, I guess guess that's worse to see past that than someone being a fan/fangirl of psychopaths whom claims to not agree what they're doing wrong, but still love them as if being a serial killer who mutilates men to create brides, a psychopath who has kept 2 people in hostage and is a sex addict, and a reaper committing terrorism. That is somehow more tolerable than a kid game making a teenager stealing rings for an 8-year-old out of competition and rivalry and taking that out of context and way too seriously.
Wow, you just don't get the point of what Alduin is saying at all, do you? The entire point of her bringing up the characters she likes that do monstrous things was that she still likes those characters even when she doesn't agree with everything they do, and that Melody should be afforded the same respect, which is what you're not giving her.
The only one taking Silver's actions out of context is you, considering the fact that you don't look at the rest of the game to see that Silver should have already known there was a better way to handle things. Or to know that Silver was looking for SBO immediately after having shunted him to the side. Which is what I'm going to do to your shit!
By the way, was this the part where you think I was contradicting myself because I stated that Silver got only tricked once and you think he quote-unquote blindly followed someone again because someone was willing to help him gather some rings to regain his energy? I don't see how that's contradiction where the situations and the concept of 2 different Sonic games are different.
You know, in the only other Sonic game where Silver travels back in time to prevent a future apocalypse caused by a powerful eldritch evil themed around fire. You know, because that's super common throughout the Sonic fucking lore. I hate this point so much!
And I forgot to mention this. Silver and Espio had the same goal of keeping the Chows in a safe place to save the world, so it wasn't like Espio was taking advantage on him like Mephiles did to him.
As a fan of Espio myself, I'd argue that he was. Espio likes to test his skills, and as I said, a good reason he'd do things this way is to test his mettle against Sonic the motherfucking Hedgehog. And Espio's not an idiot either. What I said earlier about him seeing a good matchup between Silver and Tails? Oh yeah, that's one possibility. Lest we forget that Espio was originally assigned to collect evidence of Silver hiding the Chow. Kidnapping. Evidence of kidnapping. You know what's a good way of getting that evidence when all is said and done? Blackmail. Silver stealing from a child is certainly a theoretical thing to hold over his head when he goes to get that proof. He's a ninja detective. You really think he's above lying to get the job done?
Hey, by the way, I just wanted to clarify for legal reasons, being an asshole isn't actually my job. That was a joke.
Okay, cool. The point I make with that is that Espio may have known Silver was going to have an easy time getting those rings and, well, could have been planning to use that against him. Or just didn't care about the implications of it. And note, I'm a fan of Espio talking about all of this shitty stuff that seems reasonable were part of Espio's motivations. Yeah, that's because I'm fine with the fact that Espio is kind of a terrible person. You see how that works?
Silver sometimes like Shadow, but on his bad days, he's annoying and immature. I really hate how immature he also acts in the Archie comics as well. It can get very annoying.
And she's not giving any example of that. That's just so lovely.
Okay. Whether the journal that Alduin is bringing up here came out before or after 93's original video doesn't matter, because that's not an example provided, you know, in the comment. This is one of the few somewhat legitimate criticisms that Sonic93 actually has in this video. Then again, a lot of this boils down to who fucking cares. Everyone here is having a contest to see who can boil their piss the fastest, but deets.
I'm pretty sure I'll win that one anyway.
Yeah. So it's even more pointless.
My conclusion is, if Silver acted serious in the outside, like he does look cool, but also act mature, then he will be very likable!
Oh my
God! What the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously! Okay, guys. After reading her stupid points, can you honestly say this sounds like the Silver fan to you? Or better yet, huge Silver fan to you?
I like how this whole video consisted of Ruth getting pissy at people with valid critiques over Silver. You think they're the toxic people in Silver's fandom? Well, you literally just made like a 40-minute video shitting on these people for pointing out why Silver has flaws in his characters that need to be improved on.
Now that is irony.
I have never stated Valak and Melody are the toxic of the Soul fandom. If you're going to make such statement, you need to provide proof and not just saying it bluntly out of nowhere or for no reason. And you might think that watching the whole video is proof enough, but skipping a lot of my arguments and just let it be when I'm being angry is not saying anything out of context at all. And you complain about how long my video is of me shitting on these people for pointing out why Silva has flaws in his character that needs to be improved on, when you have a similar and even worse made video that somehow you're expecting me to take you seriously because it's supposed to quote unquote call me out on what I did wrong. Your video is only 4 minutes longer than my original video, and throughout it all, it's all about you taunting and making lame jokes. How is that supposedly better than what you claimed I did to Melody and Valak?
Ladies, you're both pedantic. It's final thoughts time. Brace for impact. First, I'd like to address what I've seen from sonic93's original video. You know, your actual first commentary. I mean, I'd be willing to chalk this up to you just not thinking of it as a commentary because you were mostly covering a comment, but well, my reasons for not treating that idea seriously are in the third part of my final thoughts. Let's take a look at the subject matter as a whole, shall we? That's easy to do because you're perfectly well understood sped up in spite of what you say, and she only skipped something of yours like 3 times? But I'm going to pretend her explanation isn't even valid for the purpose of this and just assume everything she skipped was you being polite. Alright. You still spend the better part of 40 minutes telling people that they can't like something if they have criticisms of it. Plain and simple. You paint them as liars because in your eyes they pay lip service to the concept of liking Silver when the rest of their video indicates otherwise. And you know what? You might have a point. Melody even, in conclusion, points out the actual change she'd like to see to make Silver's personality more palatable. And you've admitted that Xanic's part of this discussion was a side point at fucking best, though. The whiny tone you used to read Melody's comment off also does quite a bit to paint how pedantic about someone saying that they didn't like writing that's over 12 years old at this point, while still liking the character 12 years later, after appearances in both Sonic Forces and a number of spin-off games that aren't Sonic rivals. That being said, Alduin harsh much? Look, I get that you want to be the best low-budget Heaton Mitsuru that the world's ever seen, but that would require a lot more wit. Heaton tells jokes instead of just making references and screaming. I think your Silver Jesus thing comes close, but it honestly would work better if you rolled with it whenever you wanted to point out her treating Silver as though his flaws didn't exist. And on top of being generally boring, you also have commentator tunnel vision. See, this is the real reason you were so repetitive. It's not so much that Sonic93 was repetitive, even though I could see it. But rather that you were taking in each statement on its own, rather than looking at the picture of what she was saying as a whole. Doing some research would probably help solidify some of those more shaky points, especially about Sonic rivals as well. You said some stuff that made sense though, and presented evidence to back up your own claim. Your video wasn't great, but it wasn't a total waste. You have potential. You just need to put the work in. And that leaves us with this video. Over a year later, and you decide you want to respond. Why is that, exactly? Oh, right. According to you, it's because you didn't want to give attention to a troll. But is that really the case? You have a habit of providing lip service to a concept while your actions display the opposite, you know, much like you're getting on to your original targets for allegedly doing. The reason Alduin kept ignoring when you said that people didn't have to think Silver was perfect the 2 times you said it is because the rest of your video gave her reason to not believe you. Hell, even the way you title this video, you say this is Babu's first comm, but the fact of the matter is, what exactly do you think Alduin was covering? Again, I chalk that up to not thinking of this as a commentary, but, well, as I said, you like to pay lip service. You pay lip service to providing evidence of your claims when here you are just saying, it's not available anymore. You pay lip service to doing your homework on a game you haven't played, but amidst context that is so fucking obvious. It's clear you were just looking to see if Tails cried on camera. You pay lip service to the idea that people can have critiques of Silver or the way that Sega writes them, and yet here you McFucking are telling someone that they can't be a fan while shitting all over someone for saying that they like a character in spite of a large number of flaws. And fuck, I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, and I'll start a conversation talking about the massive amounts of filler and the ridiculously complicated time travel rules as modified in Super, among other things. But you can be a fan and still say that things are dog shit. Loving things when you have things you hate about them makes that love stronger. You pay lip service to not giving a troll attention, but decide that... Actually, let's think about that one for a second. Why did you really respond to all of this over a year later? I looked at your Social Blade numbers. You've been on the decline since January of 2019. In October and November, you only gained 100 subscribers. Now suddenly, during the month of December, right after you initially released this video, 300. I'm sorry. Correction. 400. Yeah, that strikes me as oddly coincidental. It's like Eric Bischoff once said. Controversy creates cash, and you sure made a lot of it, didn't you? Now, can you explain why after people started covering you, you felt the need to fix a technical issue by re-uploading the video after the video had been out for at least a week? You know, almost immediately after I left a comment that was just the words Boon Cannon 44 in hexadecimal. Oh yeah, quartering. I see what you're doing over there. Like making the evidence of your wrongdoings harder to find. You have a pinned comment on this video where in the comment you say you'd rather discuss this privately, and videos aren't the best way to resolve stuff like this, but still defend the fact that your video exists because it's something you personally needed to do. Yeah, the reason I'm not hitting you up on Discord and talking about my criticisms with you because, quite frankly, I don't believe you. You've given me every reason to not believe anything you say. Especially since, even though the comment states that you feel like making videos isn't a good way to solve things, what the fuck's this then? When asked if you were going to cover Dumbsville, and yet, for some reason, in your earlier comment on your community tab, you point out that Dumbsville is stubborn and that making the video is the only way to do this. And isn't it quite interesting, the timing, considering that last sentence? And I am prepared for the outcome, and I will continue doing this until it's done. I think you know where this is going. So for those who don't know, there have been attempts to dox Alduin Gijinka and Ghosty.exe after Sonic93's video, release private information from them. A clear indication that people were targeting these two because of Sonic93. Now, of course, you say you didn't think you would have fans that would do something like that. Yeah, but weren't you prepared for the outcome a week ago? Really didn't cross your mind that someone might try to do this? And it's not even because you think your fans are better people than that. No, that's not it. It's because you didn't realize how many fans you had. Get your dick off the fucking scale and swing it in a direction that actually does something about literal criminal behavior, you cunt muffin. Everything I've read from you, heard from you, indicates that you intend on continuing with your rant series. And real talk, that's the biggest example of you paying lip service of them all. You see people exposing private information, and you don't think that you have any responsibility to even say, don't do it? So if you continue this series from here, congratulations. You've proven that you have no respect for other human beings. And I still have advice for you, believe it or not, because no matter how disgusted I am by your actions as they stand now, I still want to think that there's a human being inside of that demonic shell. So here it is. End this now. You have the power to put a stop to all this. You have the power to move on with your life. And you have the power to do the biggest piece of damage control that you could possibly do in this situation.
Shut up.
If you can reasonably afford it, maybe step back from YouTube for a month or two to let some of the hate cool down. But the core of my advice is that you should not continue down this road. Because if you do, things are going to get ugly. Possibly YouTube ban ugly. That's not a threat from me. That's me pointing out what I'm seeing and feeling the need to give you a warning. And that's the end of my final thoughts.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was just, making sure.
So, do you trust me now, Jacob? It's Jacob, right? I'm pretty sure Wolfram's been calling you Jacob this whole time, and I'd feel like a real dick if I've been hearing that wrong this entire time.
Yeah, I get it. You can think for yourself just fine. I'll see you falling for Elias's bullshit. Especially since that ghost bitch ain't convinced you used the Orb of Chaos yet.
You shut your mouth, you literal flaming homosexual.
Yeah, what is the deal with you being obsessed with me using that orb?
Yeah. What is the deal with that guardian of the orb? Or should I say...
Soraya?